Hey guys, tonight you're not in your bed. You're lying on a reed mat on a hard-packed earth floor. The year is 1350 BC. The air already feels warm, thick with the smell of dust river mud and something baking under a relentless rising sun. You've probably seen the golden masks, the towering pyramids, the serene paintings of gods and pharaohs. But that's not this story. Tonight, we're exploring why you wouldn't last a single day in a real ancient Egyptian village. Forget majesty. Think sand fleas and beer for breakfast because the water might kill you. Your pillow isn't soft. It's a carved block of wood, and the flies are already awake, buzzing a slow song of decay right by your ear. By the time the sun sets on this day, you'll understand that survival here wasn't about glory. It was a gritty, moment-to-moment miracle. So before we begin, take a moment and let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. And if you enjoy these quiet, deep dives into the forgotten corners of history, consider subscribing. It means more to this channel than you know. Now, dim the lights. Let the weight of your body sink into your mattress. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's begin. You're not in your world anymore. You're in theirs. And in this world, the gods are always watching. You rise from the reed mat, your back already aching, a dull, familiar protest. The single room you call home is beginning to fill with the pale, hazy light of dawn. It's not a gentle awakening. The walls, made of sun-dried mud bricks, seem to hold the heat of yesterday and the cool of the night in an uncomfortable truce. You can smell the earth from the floor beneath your bare feet, mixed with the faint, lingering scent of smoke from last night's cooking fire, the sweet-sour aroma of brewing beer, and the ever-present musk of the family goat, who is now stirring in the corner, unimpressed by the start of another day. There are no windows, not in the modern sense, just small, high openings in the walls that let in slivers of light and air, but also dust, and the drone of flies beginning their daily assault. Your family sleeps around you. Your mother is already tending to the fire, her movements slow and practiced. Your siblings are still curled under a shared linen sheet, their breaths soft and even. There is no privacy here. Every cough, every sigh, every rustle of the mat is a shared experience. This small space isn't just a bedroom. It's the kitchen, the dining room, and the workshop, all contained within 4 mud walls under a roof of bundled reeds that occasionally drops bits of dried grass onto your head. From outside, you hear the village starting to stir, a distant shout, the braying of a donkey, the rhythmic thump of someone grinding grain. Your world is small, contained, and about to be baked by the sun. This is your home, a shelter from the night, but never truly a refuge from the world. Your mother hands you a cup of beer. It's thick, lukewarm, and tastes like fermented porridge. You drink it without thinking, not for pleasure, but for hydration. The water from the Nile, the very lifeblood of your existence, is a gamble. It is murky with silt, teeming with invisible parasites, and shared by everyone and everything, from the pharaoh's sacred barges to the crocodile lurking in the reeds. The brewing process boils the water, making the beer safer, a gritty but essential source of calories and life. Alongside it is your breakfast, a flat, dense cake of barley bread. It's hard, and as you chew, you feel the familiar crunch of sand, a permanent seasoning from the stone grinders. There is no butter, no jam. Maybe you have a few dates wrinkled and sweet, or a raw onion to bite into for a sharp, clean taste. That's it. This meal isn't meant to be enjoyed. It is fuel for the long day of labor ahead. You watch your father eat his portion in silence, his gaze fixed on the doorway, already contemplating the sun's climb. Food is a necessity, a rhythm in the day, but joy is a luxury, reserved for festival days, when there might be a sliver of roasted fish or a taste of honey. Today is not a festival day. Today is simply a day you must survive. You finish your bread, the sand grinding between your teeth, and feel the heavy beer settle in your stomach. It is enough. It has to be. You believe in the gods, of course. Everyone does. To not believe is to not understand the world. Ra steers the sun across the sky each day, a boat of fire that brings both life and scorching death. Hapi is the god of the Nile whose floods you both pray for and fear. And in a small niche in your home sits a clay figure of Bes, the ugly dwarfish god, who protects your family from snakes, scorpions, and the evil spirits that wander in the night. Your life is woven with magic and ritual. You wear an amulet, perhaps a sacred scarab beetle, tucked under your tunic. It is your shield against curses and the evil eye. The pharaoh ruling from a distant golden city is more than a king. He is a living god, the son of Ra, and his health ensures the health of the land itself. You will likely never see him, but his presence is everywhere, on temple walls, in the orders of the overseer, in the cosmic order Ma'at that holds the universe together. This order is your comfort and your prison. It means that everything has its place, that the sun will rise, the Nile will flood, and the world will continue. But it also means you have a place, and it is here at the bottom. You are a farmer, a laborer, a link in a chain that stretches up to the heavens. Your duty is to not break that chain. To question is to invite chaos. To rebel is to challenge the gods themselves. So you pray. You make your small offerings, and you trust in the balance of all things, because it is the only thing that makes sense of the heat, the hunger, and the hardship. The sun is higher now. The pale light has turned to a white, shimmering glare. The heat is no longer a gentle warmth. It is a physical weight pressing down on the village. You can hear the overseer's voice in the distance, sharp and impatient. The floodwaters have receded, leaving behind the rich black silt that will grow your food. But that same mud also breeds disease. Mosquitoes rise in clouds from stagnant pools. The threat of fever, what the priests call the demon of the year, is always present. Today you will work in the fields, your feet sinking into that fertile, dangerous mud. You will bend your back under the watchful eye of a master who answers to a noble, who answers to a priest, who answers to the pharaoh. There is no choice. There is only the rhythm of the sun and the demands of the land. You take a deep breath of the hot, dusty air, pick up your simple wooden hoe, and step out into the day. It has just begun, and it will demand everything you have. You step out of the cool, relative darkness of your mud brick home and into the full, unapologetic glare of the Egyptian sun. The light is blinding, a solid white sheet that erases all shadows and immediately begins to bake the world. The air, which was still and close inside, is now a moving current of dust heat and 1,000 intermingled smells. There is no sidewalk to guide your path, no paved road to ease your journey. The ground is a hard-packed mixture of earth clay and sand cracked in a mosaic of thirst from the relentless heat. This is the main thoroughfare of your village, a narrow winding lane that snakes between the windowless walls of other homes identical to your own. Your first steps are cautious. You are barefoot, as are most of the people you will encounter today. Leather sandals are a luxury reserved for priests, officials, or days of festival. Your soles, calloused and tough from a lifetime of walking on this ground, are accustomed to the texture, but not immune to the hazards. A sharp stone left from a collapsed wall, a stray piece of broken pottery, or the ever-present thorns of the acacia tree are constant threats. But these are the least of your worries. The real challenge of the morning commute is navigating the filth. There is no concept of waste management here, no system for sewage or garbage collection. Life simply spills out into the street. As you walk, you sidestep a pile of discarded onion peels and fish bones from last night's meager meal, already buzzing with a cloud of determined flies. A few feet away, a puddle of stagnant grayish water has formed where someone emptied a washing basin. You give it a wide berth, knowing that what breeds in that water is not life, but sickness. The smells intensify as you move toward the more crowded part of the village. The sharp, acrid scent of animal dung from the goats and donkeys that wander freely, the sweet, cloying odor of rotting vegetation, and the underlying pervasive smell of human waste. Chamber pots, simple clay jars, are emptied from doorways directly into the street with a perfunctory shout of warning if the person is feeling considerate. The waste bakes in the sun, turning the dust into a pungent microbial stew. You learn to breathe through your mouth, a common practice that does little to stop the taste of the air from coating your tongue. Children, their faces smudged with dirt, chase a stray dog down the lane, their bare feet kicking up clouds of dust that you inevitably inhale. An old man sits in a shaded doorway mending a fishing net, his movements slow and methodical, his face a roadmap of wrinkles carved by this very sun. He nods as you pass a silent acknowledgement of your shared existence in this place. A woman balances a large water jug on her head, her spine impossibly straight, her steps measured as she returns from the Nile. She does not look at you. Her focus is entirely on not spilling a single precious drop. The sounds of the village are a symphony of survival. The rhythmic thud of a woman grinding grain with a stone, the sharp crack of a foreman's voice from the nearby fields, the distant braying of a donkey, and the constant low hum of flies. You are not alone in this journey. The lane is a river of people, all moving with the same tired, purposeful gait. They are your neighbors, your relatives, the people you have known your entire life. You know their faces, their families, their struggles. There is a sense of community here, born not of choice, but of shared hardship. You might exchange a brief word, a nod, a simple greeting, but there is little time for lengthy conversation. The sun is climbing higher, and the fields are waiting. Your destination is the edge of the village where the cultivated land begins a patchwork of green, carved out of the desert's edge, fed by the life-giving but treacherous waters of the Nile. Your commute is short, perhaps only a few hundred yards, but it is a daily pilgrimage through the raw, unfiltered reality of your world. It is a reminder that in this life, nothing is clean, nothing is easy, and every step is a negotiation with the earth. You feel the grit of the path under your feet, the heat on your shoulders, and the weight of the day already settling upon you. This is how every day begins. Before you leave for the fields, there is one final crucial task. It is a quiet, personal ritual, but one that holds the weight of your entire world. You return to the single room of your home and approach the small, humble shrine nestled in a corner. It is not grand. There is no gold, no marble. It is a simple niche, carved into the mud brick wall holding a few small, crudely shaped clay figures. These are the household gods, the intimate protectors of your family. There is Taweret, the hippopotamus goddess of childbirth and fertility, her swollen belly a promise of protection for your mother and sisters. Next to her is a figure of Bes, the grotesque but benevolent dwarf god. His tongue is stuck out his face, a monstrous grimace designed to frighten away evil spirits, snakes, and the nightmares that creep in during the long dark nights. You believe in their power implicitly. They are not distant deities ruling from on high. They are part of your home's silent, watchful guardians against the chaos that constantly threatens the edges of your life. Your mother has already prepared the morning offering. It is a small piece of your breakfast bread, the flattest, least sandy part, and a tiny clay cup filled with a few drops of beer. You take it, your hands still dusty from the walk outside, and kneel before the shrine. You do not speak in loud, formal prayers. This is a conversation of the heart, a silent acknowledgement of your dependence. You murmur a quiet request for safety in the fields, for the health of your family, for the Nile to be merciful this season. You place the bread and beer before the figures. It is a meager offering, but it is all you have, and you give it willingly. This is your rent to the cosmos. This daily act of devotion is a microcosm of your entire worldview. For you, the world is saturated with the divine. The gods are not confined to the grand temples of Karnak or Luxor. They are in the river, in the sun, in the wind that kicks up the sand, and in the scorpion that might be hiding under your sleeping mat. There are hundreds of them, each with their own domain, their own temperaments, their own demands. You cannot possibly know them all, but you know the ones that matter to your survival. You know to respect Sobek, the crocodile god, before you approach the Nile to fetch water. You know to honor Rinenutiti, the cobra goddess of the harvest, as you head to the fields praying she will ensure a bountiful crop. And above all, you are aware of the Pharaoh, the living God on earth. He is the intermediary between you and the great gods, the one whose rituals maintain Mayat, the cosmic balance of truth, order, and justice. His name is spoken with reverence. His image is carved on monuments you will likely never see. You believe his well-being is directly tied to your own. If he is strong, the nation is strong. If he angers the gods, the whole of Egypt will suffer drought, famine, or plague. Your personal fate is inextricably linked to this divine king, a man so powerful, he is a god, yet a god you will never meet. You also carry protection on your own body. Around your neck hangs a simple amulet, perhaps a clay scarab beetle, a symbol of rebirth and the rising sun. It is your personal shield, a piece of magic you wear against a world filled with unseen dangers. You believe that words have power, that spells can heal, and that curses can kill. The line between medicine and magic is blurry, if it exists at all. A healer will apply a poultice to your wound, but he will also chant an incantation to drive out the demon that caused the injury. Your belief is not a matter of faith. It is a matter of practicality. In a world where life is so fragile, you need all the help you can get from the gods, from the spirits, and from the small, ugly dwarf god staring out from the corner of your home. You finish your quiet offering, bow your head one last time, and turn to leave. The shrine is a tiny anchor of order in a life defined by struggle. It is a reminder that you are not alone, even when you feel like you are. The gods are watching, always. The fields stretch out before you, a flat expanse of dark, fertile mud left behind by the Nile's recent flood. This black land, or Kemet, is the source of all life in Egypt, the very reason your civilization exists. But it does not give its gifts freely. It demands sweat, toil, and endurance under the watchful, unforgiving eye of Ra, the sun god. Today, he is in a particularly fiery mood. You join the line of other villagers, men and women alike, and are handed your tool for the day, a simple wooden hoe with a stone or bronze blade. There are no complex machines, no beasts of burden to pull the plow unless you are working on a wealthy estate. For most, agriculture is a hands-on, back-breaking affair. Your task is to break up the soil to prepare it for planting the barley and emmer wheat that will become your bread and beer for the year. You sink your bare feet into the mud. It is cool at first, a brief, deceptive relief from the already baking air. But soon the sun will heat the dark soil until it feels like you are wading through warm tar. The overseer, a man employed by the temple or a local noble who owns this land, stands on a raised bank of earth, his staff of office in hand. He does not work, he watches. His voice is a sharp, constant presence, barking orders, pointing out those who are slowing and offering no words of encouragement. His job is not to inspire you, but to extract the maximum amount of labor from you. A portion of everything you grow will go to him, then to the temple, then to the Pharaoh. You work for your share, which is often just enough to survive until the next harvest. The sun climbs higher in the sky, a perfect white-hot circle in a sea of pale blue. There is no shade. The heat is a physical presence pressing down on your shoulders, shimmering in the air before your eyes. Sweat pours down your face, stinging your eyes, and leaving white salt tracks on your sun-darkened skin. You wrap a piece of linen around your head, but it does little to stop the oppressive heat. Your throat is dry, and the water in the clay jug you brought with you is already warm and tastes of earth. You take small sips, rationing it. To drink too much, too quickly, is to invite sickness. The work is repetitive, a grueling rhythm of hacking at the soil, turning it over, moving a few feet, and starting again. Your muscles scream in protest. Your lower back, already strained from a lifetime of this labor, sends sharp signals of pain up your spine. You ignore them. Everyone ignores them. To stop is to be noticed, and to be noticed is to be punished. You see an older man stumble, his face pale. Two others help him to the edge of the field, where he collapses under the meager shade of a sycamore tree. No one knows if it is heat stroke, dehydration, or simply the final surrender of a body worn out by years of this life. There is no doctor here. There is only the sun and the work. You see women working alongside the men, their movements just as practiced, their faces just as determined. They have babies strapped to their backs in linen slings, the infants sleeping fitfully in the oppressive heat. They will work this field until midday, then return home to grind grain, prepare the evening meal, and care for their other children, their day of labor far from over. You focus on the ground in front of you, on the feel of the hoe in your hands, on the small patch of earth that is your responsibility for this moment. The world shrinks to this single, repetitive task. It is a kind of meditation, a way to endure the unendurable. You do not think about the heat. You do not think about the pain. You do not think about the overseer's glare. You think only of the next piece of earth. Because that is how you survive the day. Not by fighting the sun, but by bowing your head and working until it finally decides to release you into the cool embrace of evening. Ra is a powerful god, and you are merely a mortal in his domain. Your only form of worship is your sweat. The Nile is the heart of your world. It is the reason for the black, fertile soil beneath your feet, the source of the fish that occasionally grace your table, and the sacred river that carries the souls of the dead into the afterlife. It is a god Hapi, and you revere it. But you also fear it because the same water that gives life can so easily take it away. Your day is bookended by visits to its banks. In the morning, you come to collect water for drinking, cooking, and washing. You wade into the shallows, the cool water, a brief shock against your sun-warmed skin. You fill heavy clay jars, balancing them on your head, for the long walk back to the village. The water is a muddy brown thick with the silt that makes your land so rich. You know it is not clean. You can see the reeds, the algae, the refuse from villages upstream floating by. But you have no choice. This is the only water there is. You take a sip, and the taste is earthy alive. You try not to think about what else might be in it. The priests say the gods purify the Nile, but you have seen too many people fall sick with the bloody flux, what we would call dysentery, to fully trust in divine filtration. You know the invisible dangers that lurk in these waters. The most feared is a sickness. The healers call ASA a disease that causes blood in the urine and slowly drains a person of their strength. It comes from tiny unseen worms that live in the snails, clinging to the reeds. You try to avoid these areas, but it is impossible to be completely safe when the river is your bathtub, your laundry, and your drinking fountain. But the invisible threats are not the only ones. The Nile is home to creatures of immense power and deadly intent. As you fill your jars, you keep a constant wary eye on the surface of the water. Crocodiles, the sacred animals of the god Sun Sobek, are a common sight. They bask on the sandbanks, their armored hides looking like logs until they slide into the water with terrifying speed. Every year, someone from your village is taken, a child playing too close to the edge, a woman washing clothes, a fisherman casting his net. The attack is swift, brutal, and final. There is no fighting back. There is only a scream, a splash, and then silence. Even more dangerous are the hippopotamuses. They may look slow and placid, but they are notoriously aggressive and fiercely territorial. They can overturn a fisherman's boat with a single toss of their massive head, or charge a person on the riverbank with surprising speed. They are the undisputed kings of the river, and you know to give them a wide, respectful berth. The river is a place of constant negotiation between reverence and fear. You thank Hapi for the flood that nourishes your crops, but you also whisper a prayer of protection to Horus to keep the crocodiles at bay. You use its water to cleanse yourself while knowing that same water could be carrying a disease that will consume you from the inside. Later in the day, after hours of toil in the fields, you might return to the river to bathe. It is not for pleasure, but to wash away the layers of dust, sweat, and grime. You use sand and natron, a type of salt, to scrub your skin, the coarse grains providing a rough exfoliation. There is no soap. There is only the river, and the hope that you are washing away more sickness than you are absorbing. You watch the sun set over the water, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. In this moment, The Nile is beautiful, serene, a portrait of divine perfection. But you are not fooled. You know that beneath that calm surface life and death are locked in a constant churning dance. The Nile gives, the Nile takes, and you live your life forever on its edge. You bite into your evening meal, another dense, flat loaf of emmer bread, and feel a familiar, sickening crunch. It's not a stray pebble this time. It's a piece of your own molar. You spit the fragment into your hand and stare at it with a sense of weary resignation. In your world, a full set of teeth past the age of 30 is a mark of divine favor, and you are clearly not one of the chosen. The problem, as always, is the bread. It is the staff of your life, the source of your calories, the very substance that keeps you working in the fields. But it is also a relentless instrument of dental destruction. The grain is ground between two large flat stones, a process that inevitably mixes fine particles of sand grit and stone dust into the flour. Every meal you eat is an act of abrasion, slowly but surely grinding your teeth down to smooth flat nubs. The evidence is undeniable. Modern archaeologists who examine the mummies of your people find teeth worn down to the pulp, riddled with abscesses, and plagued by periodontal disease. Even the mighty pharaohs with their access to the finest food suffered from the same gritty fate. Ramses II, one of the most powerful rulers in Egyptian history, was tormented by dental problems for most of his life. If a god king couldn't escape it, what chance do you have? You run your tongue over the sharp, broken edge of your tooth. Pain is already beginning to radiate through your jaw, a low, throbbing hum that promises a sleepless night. There is no modern dentistry here. No drills, no fillings, no root canals. Your options for dealing with the pain are grimly limited. You could chew on a piece of willow bark, which contains a natural form of salicylic acid, the active ingredient in aspirin. It might dull the ache for a while. You could apply a poultice of honey and herbs to the gum, hoping its antibacterial properties will stave off infection. Or you could visit the local healer. The healer, who is part doctor and part magician, will likely diagnose the problem as a toothworm, a tiny invisible demon that has burrowed into your jaw to cause mischief. His treatment will be a mixture of practical and magical. He might try to pack the cavity with a mixture of resin and crushed minerals. But he will also chant an incantation, a spell, to exorcise the worm, calling on the power of Horus or Sekhmet to aid in the battle. If the pain becomes unbearable and an abscess forms a swollen, pus-filled pocket of infection in your gum, the situation becomes life-threatening. Without antibiotics, the infection can easily spread to your bloodstream, leading to a raging fever, sepsis, and a slow, agonizing death. Your only hope is extraction. There are no specialized dentists. The task might fall to the healer, or even a skilled craftsman who knows how to work with tools. The procedure is a brutal affair. There is no anesthetic save for a large gulp of strong beer or the mercy of passing out from the pain. The extractor will use a set of bronze probes and forceps, crude instruments that look more suited to blacksmithing than to delicate oral surgery. He will grip the offending tooth and pull, and pull, and pull. The sound of the root cracking from the bone is something you will never forget. If you are lucky, the tooth comes out clean. If not, it shatters, leaving fragments in the gum that will only cause more infection. You are left with a bleeding, gaping hole in your jaw, which you are told to rinse with salt water and pray it heals. Many don't. You look at the small, gritty piece of tooth in your palm. It is a harbinger of what is to come, a future of more pain, more broken teeth, and a smile that is slowly, inevitably turning to dust. Your life in this small Egyptian village is a constant, unending war. It is not a war fought with spears and shields against foreign invaders, but a quieter, more intimate struggle waged against an army of tiny, relentless pests. They are your constant companions, sharing your food, your home, and your body, and you can never, ever defeat them. The most numerous and maddening of your enemies are the flies. They are everywhere. From the moment the sun rises until it sets, they are a buzzing, crawling black cloud that follows you relentlessly. They swarm over your food, turning a simple loaf of bread into a writhing mass of insect life. They land on your face, your eyes, your lips, seeking moisture and salt. You wave them away with a practiced weary flick of your hand, but they return instantly undeterred. The children in the village are the most vulnerable. You see them with flies clustered around their eyes, drawn to the moisture, and you know that these same flies have just been feasting on animal dung or the rotting carcass of a fish by the riverbank. They are carriers of disease spreading eye infections like trachoma, which can lead to blindness, and intestinal illnesses that can be fatal for a small child. You try to keep them away, but it is like trying to stop the wind. When night falls, the flies recede, but a new army emerges. The rats and mice. They are the silent, shadowy thieves of your world. You hear them scurrying in the thatched roof above you as you try to sleep, their tiny claws making scratching sounds in the darkness. They are after your grain, the most precious resource you have. You store your barley and emmer in clay pots covered with a flat stone. But the rats are clever. They find ways in gnawing through reed baskets, slipping through cracks in the walls. Every morning, you inspect your stores with a sense of dread, looking for the telltale signs of their presence, spilled grain, and small, dark droppings. A rat infestation can mean the difference between having enough food to last the season and starvation. They are not just thieves, they are harbingers of famine. And then there are the creatures that carry not just disease, but venom. Scorpions are a constant threat. They are the color of the sand, and love to hide in cool, dark places underneath your sleeping mat, inside a clay jar, or within the folds of your tunic left on the floor. Every time you reach into a dark space, you do so with a flicker of fear. A scorpion sting is excruciatingly painful, and for a child or an elderly person, it can be fatal. Snakes, too, are a part of life. The Egyptian cobra, with its iconic hooded threat display, is both revered as a sacred symbol of royalty and feared as a deadly killer. You learn from a young age to watch where you step, to check your bedding, and to never, ever reach into a hole without first probing it with a stick. Your life is a landscape of small defensive actions. You cover your food, you shake out your clothes, you sleep with a cat in the house, a sacred animal of the goddess Bastet, not just for its divine protection, but for its skill as a hunter of rats and snakes. You are never truly at ease. The world is filled with tiny, creeping, buzzing things that see you as a source of food or a temporary shelter. This is not a battle you can win. It is a reality you must endure, a constant, low-level hum of anxiety that underlies every moment of your existence. You swat another fly from your face. It is a small, insignificant gesture, but it is all you can do. A fever begins to burn behind your eyes. Your throat is raw, and a deep, racking cough shakes your body. In the modern world, this might mean a trip to the pharmacy for antibiotics. In your world, it means you have been invaded by a demon, and your only hope lies in a delicate dance between medicine and magic. You are brought to the village healer. He is not a doctor in the way we would understand it. He is a SWMW, a man who is part physician, part priest, and part magician. His knowledge has been passed down through generations, recorded on papyrus scrolls filled with remedies and incantations. He does not begin by taking your temperature. He begins by asking questions to diagnose the spiritual source of your ailment. Did you offend a specific god? Did you neglect an offering at your family shrine? Has a deceased and angry relative sent a spirit to torment you? Your illness, he explains, is an imbalance, a disruption in the cosmic order of Ma'at. The demon of sickness has found a weakness, a crack in your spiritual defenses, and slipped inside. To heal you, he must not only treat your body, but also exorcise the malevolent force that has taken root within you. The treatment is a multi-pronged assault. He prepares a medicinal poultice for your chest. It is a mixture of crushed herbs, honey, and to your dismay, crocodile dung. You recoil at the smell, but you do not protest. The dung, he explains, has powerful magical properties that evil spirits find repulsive. The honey is a gift from the sun, God Ra, a substance of pure light that will fight the darkness within you. He is not entirely wrong. Honey has natural antibacterial qualities that can soothe your throat and fight infection. But for the healer, its power is magical, not chemical. As he applies the warm, pungent paste to your skin, he begins to chant. His voice is a low, rhythmic monotone, reciting a spell from a sacred text. He calls upon Sekhmet, the lion-headed goddess of both plague and healing, begging her to turn her wrath away from you and onto the demon that possesses you. He invokes Thoth, the god of wisdom and magic, asking for the knowledge to find the right cure. The words are as important as the herbs. The spell is the active ingredient. You lie on your mat, the smoke from burning incense filling the small room. The healers chant, a hypnotic drone in your ears. He may also give you a potion to drink, a bitter concoction of boiled herbs and beer. Or he may recommend a specific amulet for you to wear, one carved with the eye of Horus, a powerful symbol of protection and healing. If the fever does not break, the next step is a direct appeal to the gods. You might be taken to the local temple, where you will leave an offering and pray for a divine intervention. In some cases, a priest might perform a more elaborate ritual using a wax figurine to represent the demon and then destroying it in a fire, a symbolic act of annihilation. You are a passive participant in your own healing. You place your trust not in science, but in ritual, in the wisdom of the healer, and in the mercy of the gods. You do not know if you will get better. You can only lie still, breathe in the sacred smoke, and hope that the spells are strong enough that your offerings are sufficient, and that the demon will find another home. In this world, healing is not a certainty. It is an act of faith. You are a farmer, a craftsman, a laborer. In the grand, unyielding pyramid of Egyptian society, you are the base. You are the foundation upon which the entire civilization is built, and you are also the one who bears all of its weight. Your life is governed by a social structure as rigid and imposing as the stone temples that dominate your landscape. There is no upward mobility. There is no climbing the ladder. You are born into your station, and there you will remain until the day your soul is weighed in the hall of judgment. At the very apex of this pyramid sits the pharaoh, a living god. He is not a man. He is a divine incarnation, the earthly manifestation of Horus. His word is law. His will is absolute, and his existence is so far removed from your own that he might as well live on the moon. You will never speak to him, never see him up close. Your only glimpse of his divine presence is during a festival when his golden barge glides down the Nile, a distant shimmering spectacle that you watch from the muddy banks with a mixture of awe and terror. Below the pharaoh are the highest echelons of society, the vizier, the high priests, and the nobles. They are the administrators of the empire, the keepers of the temples, the owners of the vast estates. They live in sprawling villas with painted walls, lush gardens, and private pools. They eat meat, drink fine wine, and wear pleated linen robes of the purest white. Their lives are a world away from yours, a different universe operating on the same riverbank. Next come the soldiers, the artisans, the scribes. A scribe holds a position of immense respect. In a society where only 1% of the population is literate, the ability to read and write is a form of magic. A scribe does not toil in the sun. He works in the shade of a temple or an office, recording taxes, drafting letters, and keeping the accounts of the empire. You look upon him with envy. His hands are not calloused from the hoe. They are stained with ink. His back is not bent from hauling stones. It is bent from leaning over papyrus scrolls. To have a son become a scribe is the highest aspiration your family can hold, a dream that is almost impossibly out of reach. And then there is you. The peasants, the farmers, the builders. You are the 90%. You own no land. You work the fields that belong to a temple or a wealthy nobleman. You build the tombs you will never be buried in. You haul the stones for the pyramids that will immortalize a king whose face you have never seen. You pay your taxes not in coin, but in grain a significant portion of the harvest you have spent months cultivating. What is left is what you and your family must survive on. When a nobleman's chariot passes you on the road, you are expected to prostrate yourself to fall to the ground in a gesture of absolute submission. You do not look him in the eye, you are dust beneath his feet. This hierarchy is not seen as unjust. It is seen as the natural order of the world, a reflection of the cosmic principle of Ma'at. Everyone has their place, and to challenge that place is to challenge the will of the gods. You accept your lot, not with joy, but with a deep ingrained sense of inevitability. You were born to serve just as the Nile was born to flood and the sun was born to rise. There is a certain peace in this acceptance, a freedom from the burden of ambition, but it is a peace born of powerlessness. You are the stone upon which the pyramid is built, essential but unseen, strong but forever at the bottom. As a woman in this ancient village, your world is both smaller and more demanding than a man's. While the law grants you rights that are astonishingly progressive for the ancient world, the right to own property, to run a business, to inherit, and even to file for divorce, your daily life is a testament to relentless, unending labor. There is no separation between work and home because your work is the home, the family, and the survival of both. Your day begins before the sun has even thought about rising. While your husband and sons are still asleep on their mats, you are awake, your movements quiet in the pre-dawn gloom. Your first task is the grain. You kneel before a large, flat grinding stone, a quern, and with a smaller stone in your hands, you begin the back-breaking work of grinding the barley and emmer for the day's bread. It is a slow, arduous process. The rhythmic scraping of stone on stone is the first sound of the morning. Your shoulders ache. Your knees are sore from kneeling on the hard earth floor, but you do not stop. The family must have bread. Once the flour is ground, you mix it with water and yeast, knead the dough, and shape it into the flat, round loaves that are the staple of every meal. You place them in the clay oven outside your home, a communal oven shared with your neighbors, and you tend the fire carefully. While the bread bakes, your other tasks begin. You must fetch the water from the Nile, a journey you will make several times a day, each trip involving the careful balancing of a heavy clay pot on your head. The water is needed for drinking, for cooking, and for washing. Laundry is a monumental chore involving carrying soiled linens to the river, beating them against rocks with a wooden paddle, and laying them out on the hot sand to dry, all while keeping a watchful eye for crocodiles. Then there is the food. You are the one who prepares every meal, who tends the small vegetable garden, who milks the family goat. You are also the one who brews the beer, a multi-day process of soaking, sprouting, and fermenting grain that provides your family with its safest and most important source of calories. Your hands are never idle. When you are not cooking or cleaning, you are spinning flax into thread and weaving that thread into the linen cloth that will become your family's clothing, their sheets, their burial shrouds. The loom, often a simple vertical frame, stands in a corner of your home, and you work at it for hours, your fingers nimble and practiced. And then there are the children. You are their primary caregiver. You nurse them, you soothe them, you teach them. When you go to the fields to help with the harvest, the baby is strapped to your back. When you are grinding grain, a toddler plays at your feet. Childbirth itself is a life-threatening ordeal. You give birth squatting on bricks, aided by a midwife, who is more versed in magical spells than in medical science. The risk of death from infection or hemorrhage is terrifyingly high. Many of your friends have been lost this way, yet the pressure to produce children, especially sons, is immense. Despite the crushing weight of your responsibilities, you hold a position of respect within the home. You are the mistress of the house. You manage the household budget, you oversee the food stores, and you have a say in your children's marriages. But this respect does not afford you rest. Your work begins at dawn and does not end until long after the sun has set, when you finally lie down on your mat, your body aching, your mind already calculating the tasks of the coming day. You are the silent, tireless engine that powers your family, your village, and in many ways, the entire kingdom. Your work is never done. In your world, beer is not a luxury. It is a fundamental food group, a form of payment, and your primary source of safe hydration. The ancient Egyptians love their beer, or henket as you call it. They drink it at breakfast, at lunch, and at dinner. They offer it to the gods, they give it to their children, and they are even paid in it. A laborer working on a pyramid might receive a daily ration of 4 to 5 liters of beer as his wage. It is the liquid currency of the kingdom. But before you imagine a joyous, festive atmosphere of clinking mugs and cheerful toasts, you need to understand what this beer actually is. Forget the crisp, golden carbonated beverage of the modern world. The beer you drink is a thick, cloudy, and often sour concoction that is more like a thin, fermented porridge than anything else. It is made from barley or emmer wheat, the same grains used for your daily bread. The process is simple and is usually carried out by the women of the household. They bake special, lightly cooked beer bread, which is then crumbled and soaked in water in a large clay vat. Sometimes dates or honey are added to aid fermentation and add a touch of sweetness. The mixture is left to sit for a few days, bubbling away, as the wild yeast in the air does its work. The final product is not filtered. It is a chunky, nutritious slurry packed with yeast grain particles and B vitamins. It is food as much as it is a drink. You drink it from a simple clay cup, sometimes using a reed straw to bypass the bits of grain floating on the surface. The taste is not refreshing. It is heavy, slightly sweet, and tangy, with a consistency that coats your tongue. The alcohol content is relatively low, especially in the beer given to children, but it is enough to provide a gentle dulling buzz, a welcome respite from the aches and pains of daily labor. The primary reason for its popularity, however, has nothing to do with taste or intoxication. It is a matter of life and death. The water of the Nile is notoriously unsafe, filled with bacteria and parasites, but the process of brewing beer involves boiling the water, which kills most of the harmful microbes. In a world without modern sanitation, drinking beer is simply the safest way to stay hydrated. While daily consumption is the norm, drunkenness is not celebrated. Getting heavily intoxicated is seen as undignified and foolish. Wisdom texts from the period are full of warnings against the dangers of excess. One scribe wrote, "Do not get drunk in the beer hall, lest people repeat words which have gone out of your mouth without your being aware of having uttered them." To lose control is to lose face, to become a subject of gossip and ridicule. But on festival days, these rules are often relaxed. During feasts honoring gods, like Hathor or Bastet, the beer flows freely. People sing, dance, and celebrate with an abandon that is a stark contrast to the disciplined toil of their everyday lives. These are rare moments of release, a chance to forget the hardships and to feel a sense of communal joy. You take another sip of your warm, thick beer. It does not bring you pleasure in the way a modern person might understand it. It brings you sustenance. It brings you safety. It is a reliable, comforting presence in a life filled with uncertainty. It is the taste of survival, the gritty, sour flavor of another day lived, another day endured on the banks of the ancient Nile. In your world, there is order, but it is an order enforced not by compassion, but by fear. The concept of justice is not a complex philosophical debate held in a courtroom. It is a swift, public, and often brutal spectacle designed to maintain the divine hierarchy and remind everyone of their place. There are no lawyers to argue your case, no jury of your peers to weigh the evidence. There is only the accusation, the judgment, and the punishment, all of it unfolding under the hot sun for everyone to see. Imagine you are in the village square. A man has been caught stealing grain from the temple storerooms. This is not a minor offense. Stealing from a god is a direct challenge to Mayat, the cosmic order, and the punishment must be severe enough to restore that balance. The accused is dragged before the local magistrate, an official appointed by a nobleman or the temple. He is not a judge in a black robe. He is an administrator, and his primary concern is not fairness, but the swift resolution of a problem that disrupts the community. The thief is forced to his knees. Witnesses are called, but their testimony is weighed based on their social standing. The word of a priest or a landowner is worth infinitely more than the word of a common laborer. The accused man protests his innocence, his voice a desperate plea in the charged silence of the crowd. But there is no cross-examination, no appeal. The magistrate listens his face, a mask of stern indifference, and then delivers his verdict. The punishment is the bastinado, a formal beating on the soles of the feet. Two guards hold the man down, while another brings out a long, flexible cane. The blows are delivered with methodical precision, each one eliciting a sharp cry of pain. You watch along with the rest of the village, not with glee, but with a cold sense of fear. The spectacle is not for the condemned. It is for you. It is a lesson. This is what happens when you step out of line. For more serious crimes, the punishments are even more terrifying. A man found guilty of perjury might have his tongue pierced. A corrupt official might be sentenced to forced labor in the scorching mines of Nubia, a fate often considered worse than death. And then there is the ultimate crime, tomb robbery. In a culture that invests so much in preparing for the afterlife, desecrating a tomb is the most heinous act imaginable. It is not just theft. It is the murder of a soul, the destruction of someone's chance at eternal life. The punishment for such a crime is death, often in the most excruciating way possible. The convicted might be impaled on a stake, left to die slowly in the public square as a warning to others. Or they could be burned alive, their body and soul turned to ash, ensuring they have no afterlife of their own. You live with the constant knowledge that justice is not blind. It is keenly aware of your status. A nobleman might get away with a crime that would see you exiled or executed. A priest is often above reproach. You, a peasant, are expendable. Your only defense is to be invisible, to be obedient, to never draw the attention of those in power. You learn to keep your head down, to pay your taxes, and to never, ever speak ill of your superiors. Because in this world, the law is not a shield to protect you. It is a sword hanging over your head, and it can fall at any moment. The sight of the beaten thief being dragged away is seared into your mind. It is a stark reminder that your survival depends not on your innocence, but on your submission. The sun, your relentless overseer, finally sinks below the western horizon, bleeding fiery orange and purple across the desert sky. A collective sigh of relief seems to ripple through the village. The oppressive heat of the day begins to recede, replaced by a cool, gentle breeze that feels like a divine mercy. For a brief moment, the world is beautiful, peaceful. But you know this peace is an illusion, because as the light fades, a different kind of world awakens. The night is not a time of rest. It is a time of fear. Darkness in your world is absolute. There are no streetlights, no glowing signs, no ambient light from a distant city. Once the sun is gone, the village is plunged into a profound, inky blackness, broken only by the faint flickering light of oil lamps from within the mud-brick homes and the cold, distant silver of the stars. This darkness is a canvas for your deepest fears. The familiar shapes of the day become monstrous silhouettes. The rustle of reeds by the river could be the wind, or it could be a crocodile sliding into the water. The howl of a wild dog in the desert sounds unnervingly like the cry of a vengeful spirit. You huddle inside your home, the single doorway, barred with a heavy wooden plank. The night is when the creatures of the desert grow bold. Jackals, hyenas, and wildcats are drawn to the scent of food and livestock in the village. You hear their calls echoing from the dunes, a chilling reminder of the wild, untamed world that lies just beyond the fragile circle of your community. Snakes and scorpions seeking warmth might crawl into the cracks of your walls or even slip under your door. Every shadow seems to move. Every unexpected sound makes your heart leap. But the physical dangers are not your only concern. The Egyptians believe that the night is when the veil between the world of the living and the world of the dead is at its thinnest. It is a time when ghosts, or ahu, can wander, spirits of the restless dead who were not buried with the proper rites. They are said to bring sickness, misfortune, and terrifying nightmares. You whisper a protective prayer to Bess, the guardian of your home, and clutch the amulet around your neck. The small clay figure feels like a fragile shield against the vast, unseen forces of the night. The human threats are just as real. With no formal police force to patrol the darkened lanes, the night belongs to the desperate and the dishonest. Robbery is a constant risk. A man walking home late from a neighbor's house could easily be ambushed in a dark alley, his meager possessions stolen. Feuds that simmer during the day can explode into violence under the cover of darkness. You hear a shout from a nearby home, followed by the sound of breaking pottery. You do not investigate. You pull your linen sheet tighter and pretend you heard nothing. To interfere is to invite trouble into your own home. Sleep does not come easily. The sounds of the night are a constant, unnerving symphony. The chirping of crickets, the croaking of frogs from the Nile, the occasional cry of a night bird, and beneath it all, the profound, overwhelming silence of the desert, a silence that feels heavier and more ancient than any sound. You lie on your reed mat, staring into the darkness of your room, and you listen. You listen for the sound of footsteps outside your door, for the hiss of a snake, for the whisper of a spirit. The night is long, and you know that to survive it, you must remain vigilant even in your sleep. The sun may be a tyrant, but at least in the light, you can see your enemies. In the dark, they are everywhere. The last embers of the cooking fire have died down to a soft, orange glow casting long, dancing shadows across the single room of your home. The day's labor is done, the meager evening meal has been eaten, and a profound weariness has settled deep into your bones. It is time for sleep, but sleep in your world is not a private retreat into comfort and silence. It is a communal act of survival, a huddling together against the darkness and the cold. There are no bedrooms, no separate spaces for parents and children. Your entire family, your parents, your siblings, and perhaps a grandparent or a widowed aunt shares this one room. The concept of privacy does not exist. Your life is a tapestry woven from the threads of your family's lives. And at night, those threads are drawn together in a tight, intimate knot. The floor, made of hard-packed earth, is your bed. You unroll your sleeping mat, a simple woven tapestry of reeds. It is thin, and you can feel the coolness of the ground seeping through it. It offers little comfort, only a slight barrier between your body and the dirt. You have slept on this mat your entire life. Its texture, its smell of dried grass and dust is as familiar to you as your own skin. Your pillow is not a soft, down-filled cushion. It is a headrest, a crescent-shaped block of carved wood or stone. To a modern person, it would seem like an instrument of torture, but for you, it is a practical necessity. It elevates your head, allowing the cool night air to circulate around your neck, and it keeps your elaborate hairstyle or wig worn to protect against lice from being crushed while you sleep. You have learned to find a strange sort of comfort in its unyielding hardness. It is a point of stability in a world of constant motion. You lie down, pulling a single coarse linen sheet over your body. It is not for warmth. The nights are often warm enough. It is for protection against the swarms of mosquitoes that rise from the nearby river marshes after dusk, their high-pitched whine a constant irritating serenade. You cover your face with a corner of the sheet, breathing through the thin fabric, hoping to avoid their bites, which bring not only itching, but also the risk of fever. You are not alone on your mat. You sleep close to your siblings, their bodies a familiar warmth beside you. In the winter months, this communal sleeping arrangement is essential for survival, a way of sharing body heat against the biting cold of the desert night. The sounds of sleep fill the small room. Your father's deep, rhythmic snores, your mother's soft sighs, the quiet murmur of a sibling dreaming. Even the family goat tethered in a corner adds its own gentle chewing sounds to the nocturnal symphony. This is not a peaceful, silent slumber. You are awoken several times throughout the night. A baby cries, needing to be fed. Someone coughs a dry, dusty cough that seems to echo in the stillness. A rat scurries across the rafters, its tiny claws making a scratching sound that sends a shiver down your spine. You shift on your hard mat, trying to find a more comfortable position, but there is none. You are acutely aware of every lump in the ground, every ache in your muscles, every sound from the world outside. Yet, there is a sense of safety in this shared space. You are surrounded by your family, your protectors. The darkness outside may be filled with dangers, both real and imagined, but inside this small, mud brick box, you are together. You close your eyes, listening to the familiar chorus of sleep around you, and you drift off, not into a deep, dreamless void, but into a light, watchful state of rest. Sleep is not an escape. It is a pause, a brief ceasefire in the daily battle for survival. And you know that in just a few hours, the sun will rise and the battle will begin anew. The night in your village is not silent. It is alive with a language of its own, a subtle and ancient soundscape that is as much a part of your world as the heat of the day. As you lie on your reed mat, hovering in the state between wakefulness and sleep, you listen. The loud chaotic noises of the day, the shouting of the overseer, the clang of tools, the braying of donkeys have faded, replaced by a softer, more intimate chorus. First, there are the sounds from within your own home, the slow, deep rhythm of your father's breathing, a steady, reassuring beat in the darkness, the occasional soft cough from your mother, a sound that carries a hint of the dust she has inhaled from a lifetime of grinding grain. A sibling turns over the reed mat, rustling beneath them like dry leaves. These are the sounds of family, the familiar soundtrack of your shared existence. You know each one by heart. They are a comfort, a sign that you are not alone in the dark. Then your hearing expands, moving beyond the mud brick walls of your home to the village itself. The night air is thin and sound travels easily. You can hear the faint cry of a baby from a neighboring house, a universal sound of need that is answered by the low, murmuring voice of its mother. A dog astray, that belongs to no one, and everyone barks in the distance a sharp, lonely sound that is quickly swallowed by the silence. From another home comes the sound of a dispute, hushed but angry voices rising and falling in a tense rhythm, a reminder that human troubles do not cease with the setting of the sun. But the most dominant sounds come from nature, from the wild world that presses in on your small, fragile village from all sides. The air is filled with the incessant high-pitched chirping of crickets, a sound so constant it becomes a form of silence itself. From the banks of the Nile comes the deep, guttural croaking of thousands of frogs, a bellowing chorus that rises and falls with the phases of the moon. It is the river's nightly song, a celebration of the water and the life it sustains. And sometimes, carried on the cool night breeze from the desert, you hear another sound, one that makes the hair on your arms stand on end, the high, yipping howl of a jackal. It is the sound of the wild, the sound of the tomb robbers and the spirits of the dead. It is the voice of Anubis, the jackal-headed god who guards the underworld, and it is a reminder of the vast, mysterious, and dangerous world that lies just beyond the familiar lights of your village. You pull your linen sheet a little tighter, the sound a chilling counterpoint to the gentle snores of your family. You listen, too, for the sounds that are absent. There is no rumble of carts, no clang of a blacksmith's hammer, no shouting of merchants in the marketplace. The silence of the human world is what makes the sounds of the natural world so vivid, so present. It is in this silence that you feel the true scale of your existence, a small, warm pocket of human life, surrounded by an immense and ancient wilderness. You can hear the whisper of the wind as it moves through the palm trees, a soft sighing sound like the breath of a sleeping god. You can hear the faint rustle of a scorpion skittering across the packed earth outside your door. You are tuned to these sounds. Your survival depends on them. They are your warning system, your lullaby, your connection to the world beyond your own skin. You close your eyes, letting the sounds of the night wash over you, and you drift into a light, restless sleep, your ears still listening even in your dreams. In your world, your body is not a temple to be adorned and worshipped. It is a tool. It is the primary instrument of your survival, and like any tool that is used relentlessly, it is destined to wear down, to crack, and eventually to break. From the moment you are old enough to walk, you are put to work. As a child, you carry water, you shoo birds from the crops, you help your mother grind grain. Your body begins its long apprenticeship in labor almost before your bones have fully hardened. By the time you reach your teenage years, your body is already telling a story of relentless toil. Your hands are not the soft, unblemished hands of youth. They are calloused and scarred, the skin thick and tough from gripping the rough wood of a hoe or the coarse fibers of a rope. Your feet, almost always bare, are a testament to the thousands of miles you have walked on hot sand, sharp stones, and muddy fields. The soles are like leather, cracked and stained, and your toes are splayed from a lifetime of gripping the earth. But it is your back that bears the greatest burden. The work of a farmer in ancient Egypt is a life spent bending. You bend to plant the seeds, you bend to pull the weeds, you bend to harvest the grain. Day after day, year after year, this posture takes its toll. By the time you are 30, you feel a constant dull ache in your lower back, a fire that never quite goes out. You see it in the older men and women of your village, the stooped shoulders, the slow, pained gait. Their bodies have been reshaped by a lifetime of labor, their spines curved into permanent arches of submission to the land. There is no concept of retirement, no pension, no peaceful old age. You work until your body physically gives out. An injury that might be a minor inconvenience in the modern world can be a death sentence for you. A broken leg improperly set can leave you with a permanent limp, unable to work in the fields. A deep cut from a sickle, if it becomes infected, can lead to a raging fever and death. There are no sick days. If you do not work, you do not eat. The pressure to push through the pain, to ignore the warning signs of your body, is immense. You see the toll this life takes every day. A man in his early 40s who looks 60, his face a mask of wrinkles from squinting in the sun, his hands gnarled with arthritis. A woman who has borne 10 children, her body stretched and weary, her eyes holding a deep, profound exhaustion. This is the reality of your existence. Your body is a finite resource, and you are spending it at an alarming rate. You have a vague understanding that a life of ease exists somewhere in the painted villas of the nobles or the golden halls of the pharaoh. But that is not your life. Your life is written on your body, in the scars on your hands, the ache in your back, the grit beneath your fingernails, and you know, with a certainty that is as deep and constant as the flow of the Nile, that this tool, your body, will one day fail you. You can only hope that when it does, you have a son who is strong enough to take up your hoe and continue the work, because the land does not care about your pain. The land only cares about the harvest, and the harvest must always be brought in. You stand at the edge of the Nile as the sun begins its ascent, preparing for your daily ritual of cleansing. But the concept of clean in your world is vastly different from the sterile, soap-scented ideal of the future. For you, hygiene is a practical, ritualistic, and often abrasive affair, a constant battle against the dust, sweat, and pests that define your environment. There is no soap. The chemical process to create it has not been invented. Instead, your primary cleaning agent is the very earth you live on, sand, and a substance called natron. Natron is a naturally occurring mixture of sodium carbonate and sodium bicarbonate, a type of salt harvested from dried lake beds. It is a powerful desiccant and a mild abrasive. You take a handful of wet sand from the riverbank and begin to scrub your skin, the coarse grains, removing the layer of grime and dead skin cells. It is a harsh exfoliation, but it is effective. Then you might use a paste of natron mixed with a little water or oil to further cleanse and deodorize your body. It stings a little and it leaves your skin feeling dry and tight, but it is the closest you will come to feeling truly clean. Your teeth are another matter. You chew on the end of a frayed stick to remove food particles, and you might rinse your mouth with a solution of natron and water. It is a salty, unpleasant taste, but it is believed to purify the mouth. Despite these efforts, the relentless grit in your bread ensures that your dental health is a lifelong struggle. You look at the smiles of the elders in your village and see the dark gaps, the worn-down stumps, and you know that is your future. Cosmetics are not just for the elite. They are a part of everyday hygiene for both men and women. The most important of these is kohl, the black eye paint that is so iconic of your civilization. You grind galena, a lead sulfide mineral, into a fine powder and mix it with oil or animal fat to create a thick, dark paste. Using a small, smooth stick, you carefully apply it around your eyes, creating the dramatic almond-shaped outline seen in temple paintings. This is not just for beauty. You believe the kohl has magical healing properties, that it protects you from the dreaded eye infections spread by flies. And more practically, the dark outline helps to reduce the blinding glare of the sun, acting as a primitive form of sunglasses. To combat the constant threat of lice, many of you, both men and women, shave your heads. It is a simple, effective solution to a persistent problem. In place of your natural hair, you wear wigs, often elaborate constructions, made of human hair or plant fibers, set with beeswax. A wig is a status symbol, a fashion statement, and a practical tool of hygiene, all in one. But even with these measures, true cleanliness is an elusive goal. You work in the fields, you sweat under the sun, you live in a dusty home. By the end of the day, you are covered in a fine layer of grime. The daily bath in the Nile is a reset, a ritual cleansing that washes away the filth of the day and prepares you for the night. But you know that tomorrow, the battle will begin again. Cleanliness in your world is not a permanent state. It is a temporary victory in an eternal war against the elements. Your world moves to a rhythm that is both ancient and immediate, a rhythm dictated not by the ticking of a clock, but by the slow, inexorable movement of the sun across the sky. You have no concept of minutes or seconds. Time is not a collection of tiny, precise units. It is a fluid, flowing entity measured in broad, natural strokes. Your day is divided into two main parts: the hours of light and the hours of darkness. Each of these is further divided into 12 hours. But these are not the fixed 60-minute hours of the future. Your hours are seasonal. In the long days of summer, the daylight hours are stretched out, long and languid. In the short days of winter, they are compressed, fleeting. The length of an hour is determined by the sun itself, a flexible organic measure that expands and contracts with the seasons. To gauge the time of day, you look to the sky and to the shadows. You have a simple but effective tool: a shadow clock, or what we might call a sundial. It could be a flat stone with lines etched into it, or a more sophisticated L-shaped instrument that allows you to read the passage of time with greater accuracy. You watch as the shadow cast by a central gnomon creeps across the marked lines, telling you when it is midday, when the afternoon is waning, and when it is time to head home from the fields. At night, you look to the stars. You know the constellations, the unwearying ones, that circle the northern pole star. Their movement across the night sky is your celestial clock, a reliable and predictable map of the passing hours. But the most important measure of time is not the day, but the year. Your calendar is a masterpiece of astronomical observation and agricultural necessity. It is a solar calendar of 365 days, one of the first in human history. It is divided into 3 seasons, each lasting 4 months. First is Akhet, the season of inundation, when the Nile floods its banks and deposits its life-giving silt. This is a time of waiting, of mending tools, and preparing for the work to come. Next is Pare, the season of emergence, when the waters recede and you plant your crops in the rich black earth. And finally, there is Shemu, the season of harvest, when you gather the grain that will sustain you for another year. The start of your year is not an arbitrary date. It is marked by a celestial event of profound significance, the heliacal rising of the star Sirius, which you call Sopdet. Each year, after being hidden by the sun's glare for 70 days, Sirius reappears in the dawn sky just before sunrise. This event coincides almost perfectly with the beginning of the Nile's annual flood. It is a divine signal, a promise from the gods that the cycle of life will continue. Your entire religious and civil calendar is built around this moment. You live in a world where time is cyclical, not linear. There is a sense of eternal return. The sun rises and sets the Nile floods, and recedes the stars wheel across the sky, and you perform the same tasks your ancestors performed just as your children will perform them after you. You are a part of this great cosmic rhythm, a small but essential note in the eternal song of the universe. There is no rush, no frantic race against the clock. There is only the slow, steady, and predictable passage of time marked by the sun, the river, and the stars. For weeks, the village has been buzzing with a low hum of anticipation. The work in the fields has been relentless, the food has been monotonous, and the days have bled into one another in a dusty, sun-baked haze. But today is different. Today is a festival day. It is a rare and precious jewel in the long chain of ordinary, back-breaking days. It is a time for celebration, for feasting, and for a brief, joyous release from the burdens of survival. The festival might be in honor of a major god, like the Opet festival at Thebes, celebrating the god Amun. Or it could be a smaller local affair honoring the patron deity of your village. Whatever the occasion, the entire community participates. Work ceases. The overseer's sharp voice is replaced by the sound of music and laughter. You wake not to the familiar ache of impending labor, but to a sense of excitement. You and your family put on your best linen garments, ones that are not stained with mud or sweat, but are clean, pleated, and perhaps adorned with a few colored beads. You might even wear a cone of perfumed fat on your head, which will slowly melt in the heat, releasing a fragrant scent of flowers and spices. The centerpiece of the day is the procession. The priests from the local temple, dressed in pristine white linen and leopard skins, emerge carrying a sacred bark on their shoulders. Hidden from view inside a small shrine on the boat is the statue of the god. This is the moment the deity leaves the dark confines of the temple and comes out to be among the people. The air is thick with the sweet, heavy scent of burning incense. The sound of music fills the village, the rhythmic clapping of hands, the jingling of sistrums, sacred rattles, the clear, high notes of a flute, and the gentle strumming of a harp. People line the procession route, shouting, singing, and throwing flowers. Dancers, their bodies oiled and graceful, move to the rhythm of the drums. Acrobats perform incredible feats of agility. It is a chaotic, vibrant, and joyful spectacle. You join the crowd, your voice lost in the chorus of celebration. For this one day, the rigid social hierarchy seems to melt away. You stand shoulder to shoulder with your neighbors, united in a shared experience of reverence and joy. And then there is the feast. This is a day of abundance in a life defined by scarcity. The temple, or a wealthy noble, provides the food. For the first time in months, you will eat meat, perhaps roasted goose beef or mutton. The bread is not the gritty, hard loaf of your daily life, but soft, fine bread made with white flour and sweetened with honey and dates. There are plates piled high with figs, grapes, and pomegranates. And the beer is not the sour, thick brew of your everyday existence, but a stronger, sweeter, more celebratory version. You eat until you are full, a rare and wonderful sensation. You drink, you laugh, and you forget for a few precious hours the hardships that await you tomorrow. As the sun sets, the village is lit by the warm glow of torches and oil lamps. The music continues softer, now more intimate. Stories are told, jokes are shared, and for a moment, life feels easy, beautiful. These festival days are the anchors of your year, the moments of light that make the long stretches of darkness bearable. They are a reminder that even in a life of toil, there is room for joy, for community, and for a celebration of the divine forces that govern your world. You go to sleep that night with a full belly and a light heart, the sound of music still echoing in your ears. In your civilization, a name is more than a label. It is a fundamental part of your being, as essential as your heart or your soul. To the ancient Egyptians, a person is made up of several parts. The Khat, the physical body; the Ba, the personality or soul; the Ka, the life force; and the Ren, your name. The Ren is not just what people call you. It is a vessel that contains your identity, your power, and your essence. As long as your name is spoken, you exist. If your name is forgotten, you cease to be, not just in the world of the living, but in the eternal afterlife. This belief is why the pharaohs and the great nobles of your land go to such extraordinary lengths to preserve their names. They carve them into the walls of temples. They inscribe them on towering obelisks. They paint them inside their magnificent tombs. Their names are enclosed in a cartouche, an oval shape that signifies royalty and offers magical protection. Every time a priest recites a list of kings, every time a visitor reads the hieroglyphs on a monument, they are performing an act of magic, ensuring that the soul of that pharaoh continues to live, to thrive in the field of reeds. The most terrible curse one could inflict on an enemy was to erase their name from their tomb and monuments, effectively killing them for all eternity. But you are not a pharaoh, you are not a nobleman, you are a farmer. Your name, while known and used in your village, will not be carved in stone. There will be no grand tomb with painted walls detailing the story of your life. There will be no statues bearing your likeness, no papyrus scrolls recording your deeds. Your legacy is not one of permanence. It is one of fleeting mortal memory. When you die, your family will remember you. Your children will speak your name in their prayers and leave small offerings at your simple grave. But what happens when they are gone, and their children? Within a few generations, your your name, your very essence will fade from the world of the living like a footprint in the sand, washed away by the tide. This is the quiet, unspoken tragedy of your existence. You contribute to the greatness of your civilization every day. The stone you haul builds the pyramid. The grain you harvest feeds the army. The linen you weave clothes the priest. You are the muscle, the bone, the sinew of Egypt. But history will not remember you. It will remember the king whose tomb you built, the general, whose army you fed the god, whose temple you worshipped. You are anonymous, a face. In a vast crowd, your life, a single brief note in a grand, eternal symphony that is not about you. You see the scribes in the village, their palettes and reed brushes in hand, recording the tax yields, the property disputes, the official decrees. They are capturing moments in time, freezing them in ink. But they are not recording your story. They are not writing down the name of your wife, the date your child was born, or the song you sing to yourself in the fields. Your life, with all its small joys and immense sorrows, is unwritten. It will live on only in the blood of your descendants and in the faint, whispering memories of your community. You know this, and you accept it, for it is the order of things. But sometimes, as you look at the towering pyramids on the horizon, monuments to eternal life for a chosen few, you cannot help but feel the profound, aching weight of your own impermanence. You have a name, but you know that one day the world will forget it. The end comes, as it does for most in your village, not with a heroic last stand, but with a quiet surrender. A fever that does not break, a wound that does not heal, or simply the slow, weary exhaustion of a body worn out by a lifetime of labor. As you lie on your mat, your breath growing shallow, your family gathers around you. This is not a moment of panicked, chaotic grief. It is the beginning of a process, a series of rituals as structured and important as any in your life. Death is not an ending. It is a transition, and a perilous one. When your final breath leaves your body, the mourning begins. The women of your family, their hair undone and their faces smeared with mud, rush out into the street wailing and beating their chests. It is a loud public performance of grief, a signal to the community that a soul has departed. But this is just the first step in a long and complex bureaucratic journey that your soul must now undertake. Your body is taken to the embalmers, the wet you. If your family is moderately well off, they can afford a basic mummification. It is a 70-day process. Your internal organs, the liver, lungs, stomach, and intestines are removed, dried in natron salt and placed in 4 canopic jars, each guarded by one of the 4 sons of Horus. Your brain is removed unceremoniously through your nose with a long bronze hook. Your heart, the seat of your intelligence and soul, is left inside the body. It is essential for the final judgment. Your body is then packed with natron, for 40 days until all moisture is gone, before being wrapped in hundreds of yards of linen bandages, with protective amulets tucked between the layers. While your body is being prepared, your soul, your ba, has embarked on its journey through the underworld, the duat. This is a dark and dangerous realm, filled with monstrous serpents, lakes of fire, and terrifying gatekeepers. To navigate it, you need a guide. This is where the Book of the Dead comes in. If your family could afford it, a papyrus scroll containing the necessary spells, passwords, and maps for this journey is buried with you. You must know the names of the demons who guard the gates. You must know the correct incantations to appease them. You must prove your worthiness to proceed. The journey culminates in the Hall of Two Truths, where you face the final judgment before the great god Osiris. This is the ultimate bureaucratic test. Your heart is placed on a golden scale weighed against the feather of Mayat, the symbol of truth and cosmic order. While the scales are balanced, you must make the negative confession, reciting a list of 42 sins you have not committed. I have not stolen. I have not killed. I have not been deceitful. Thoth, the ibis-headed scribe of the gods, records your confession. You hold your breath. This is the moment that determines your eternity. To one side of the scales sits Ammit, the devourer of the dead, a terrifying creature with the head of a crocodile, the body of a lion, and the hindquarters of a hippopotamus. If your heart, heavy with sin, outweighs the feather, Ammit will lunge forward and devour it, and you will cease to exist forever. A fate of total annihilation, that is the ultimate terror for an Egyptian. But if your heart is as light as the feather, if your life has been lived in accordance with Maat Osiris, welcomes you into the afterlife. You have passed the test. You have been declared true of voice. Your soul is now free to enter the field of reeds, a perfect eternal paradise where you will live forever. Your death, like your life, has been a trial, a test of your adherence to the divine order. It is the final, most important piece of bureaucracy in a life governed by rules, both mortal and divine. You are 16, and your world has ended, not with a flood from the Nile or a plague sent by a vengeful god, but with the arrival of a royal scribe in your village. He carries a papyrus scroll and a look of cold, bureaucratic indifference. He does not know your name, but he has your number. You have been conscripted. There is no choice in the matter. Military service is not a path to glory for someone like you. It is a form of taxation, a corvée labor that you pay with your body, your time, and very possibly your life. Your mother weeps silently, her hands twisting in the folds of her linen dress. Your father stands stoic, his face a mask of stone, but you see the fear in his eyes. He knows, as everyone does, that the army often takes more than it gives back. You are marched from your village with a dozen other young men, some defiant, some terrified, all of them ripped from the only life they have ever known. The farewells are brief and heavy. There are no grand promises of a heroic return. There is only the dusty road and the back of the man in front of you. Your destination is a military garrison, a sprawling complex of mud brick barracks under the punishing desert sun. Here, your identity is stripped away. Your simple farmer's tunic is replaced with a rough, scratchy kilt. Your head is shaved to prevent lice. You are no longer the son of your father. You are a recruit, a nameless cog in the Pharaoh's great war machine. The training is brutal and designed to break you. It is not about building you up. It is about grinding you down into a state of absolute unthinking obedience. Your days are filled with endless drills under the command of a veteran officer whose voice is like gravel and whose staff is quick to strike. You learn to march in formation, to hold a heavy shield made of cowhide and wood until your arm screams, and to wield a spear with deadly intent. You practice with the khopesh, a curved bronze sickle sword, its design meant to hook an enemy's shield or neck. The movements are repeated thousands of times, until they are etched into your muscle memory, until you can perform them in your sleep. There is no room for error. A dropped shield, a misplaced step, a moment of hesitation, all are met with a swift, stinging blow from the officer's staff. The pain is a constant teacher. You learn to fight, not through inspiration, but through the fear of that pain. You are fed, but the food is the same monotonous ration of bread, beer, and onions that you have always known, just enough to keep you strong enough to train. The camaraderie you form with the other recruits is forged in shared misery. You sleep shoulder to shoulder on hard mats in crowded barracks, listening to the sounds of men weeping quietly in the dark for the homes they may never see again. The greatest fear is not the training, but the prospect of battle. You have heard the stories from veterans, the chaos of a skirmish with Nubian archers to the south, the brutal close-quarters fighting against the sea peoples on the coast. You are not a hero from the Grand Temple reliefs. You are infantry. You are the front line, the human wall that will absorb the enemy's charge. Your shield and spear are all that stand between you and a swift, anonymous death on foreign soil. You look at your hands, calloused from the hoe, now learning the weight of a sword. You wonder if you will ever feel the soft mud of your father's field beneath your feet again. You do not know. You only know that you must march, you must train, and you must fight, for the glory of the Pharaoh, for the order of the gods, but most of all for the simple, desperate hope of seeing another sunrise. In your world, love is a concept reserved for the poetry sung about gods and goddesses. For you, a mortal, there is only marriage, and marriage is a contract. It is a practical, economic arrangement between two families designed to secure property, consolidate wealth, and ensure the continuation of a bloodline. It has very little to do with the matters of your heart. If you are a young woman, your marriage is decided for you long before you have any say in it. You might be as young as 12 or 14 when your father arranges your match. Your husband will likely be a man you have never met, often someone much older than you, chosen for his land, his trade, or his family's social standing. You are the primary asset in this negotiation. Your value is measured in your health, your fertility, and the size of the dowry. Your father can provide a collection of household goods, linens, furniture, and perhaps a goat or two that you will bring to your new home. There is no courtship, no whispered promises under the moonlight. There is only a formal agreement, a feast to celebrate the union of the two families, and then the quiet, terrifying reality of moving into a new house, a new life with a man who is a stranger to you. Your role is clearly defined. You are now the mistress of the house, but your primary duty is to produce children, especially sons. A son will inherit your husband's property and carry on his name. A son will ensure your husband's spirit is cared for in the afterlife. To be barren is considered a great tragedy, and it is always seen as the woman's fault. It can be grounds for divorce, a shameful affair that would send you back to your father's house in disgrace. If you are a young man, you also have little choice in the matter. Your parents will choose a bride for you, a young woman from a respectable family who can bring a decent dowry and who seems capable of managing a household and bearing healthy children. You are expected to provide for her, to protect her, and to treat her with respect, as she is the mother of your future heirs. But love is not a prerequisite. Affection may grow over time, a quiet companionship born of shared lives and shared struggles. But passion, romance, the kind of soul-shattering love you hear about in the myths of Isis and Osiris, that is not part of the deal. The marriage contract is a serious affair, sometimes written down by a scribe. It outlines the dowry, the property rights of both parties, and the conditions for divorce. And divorce is possible. A man can divorce his wife for infertility, adultery, or even if he simply dislikes her. A woman can also initiate a divorce if her husband is cruel, abandons her, or fails to provide for her. If the divorce is granted, she takes her dowry with her. This legal protection is remarkable for the ancient world, but the social stigma of a failed marriage is heavy, especially for a woman. You live with your spouse in a small, crowded home, sharing your life, not just with each other, but with your children, your parents, and often your in-laws. Your relationship is one of partnership, of shared labor, and mutual obligation. You work together to survive. You raise your children together. You face the hardships of your world together. In this shared struggle, a deep bond can form a quiet, enduring affection that is, in its own way, a form of love. It is not the passionate, dramatic love of the gods, but it is real. It is the steady, reliable warmth of a hearth fire on a cold night, a quiet understanding in a world that is loud with demands. It is enough. It has to be. The sun is a merciless hammer, and the quarry is its anvil. You stand in a vast open wound in the earth, a shimmering white pit of limestone or granite surrounded by a landscape of dust, heat, and the deafening clang of metal on stone. This is where the glory of Egypt is born. Every temple column, every colossal statue of a pharaoh, every perfectly cut block for a pyramid begins its journey here, carved from the earth by the sweat and blood of men like you. Your work is not skilled labor in the way a scribe or a jeweler is skilled. Your work is brute force, a relentless, repetitive assault on the very bones of the earth. Your tools are primitive but effective. You wield a heavy dolerite pounder, a hard black stone that you bring down again and again on the surface of the rock, slowly, painstakingly chipping away at the limestone. The dust fills your lungs, a fine white powder that coats your throat and brings on a deep, hacking cough that you will carry with you for the rest of your short life. The heat is unimaginable. The white stone reflects the sun's glare, creating a blinding, searing environment with no shade, no respite. Sweat pours from your body, but it evaporates almost instantly, leaving your skin caked in a crust of salt and dust. You drink warm, stale water from a clay jar, but it is never enough to quench the deep, burning thirst. Men collapse from heat, stroke their bodies, simply giving up in the oppressive conditions. They are carried away, and another man takes their place. There is no shortage of bodies to throw at the stone. The primary technique for freeing a large block of stone is to carve a series of holes in the rock into which you hammer wooden wedges. You then pour water over the wedges. Over several hours, the wood absorbs the water and expands, and with a great groan, the rock cracks along the line you have created. It is a slow, methodical process that requires immense patience and physical stamina. Once a block is freed, the real work begins. It must be moved. A single block of granite can weigh several tons. There are no cranes, no machines. There is only human muscle rope and a deep understanding of leverage. You are part of a team of hundreds of men, all working in a coordinated rhythmic effort. You pull on thick papyrus ropes, your bare feet slipping on the dusty ground, your muscles screaming in protest. The overseer stands above his whip, a constant threatening presence. He does not shout words of encouragement. He shouts threats. The rhythm is set by a chanter, his voice a monotonous drone that guides your movements. Pull, heave, pull, heave. The great stone sledges forward, inch by painful inch, on a path of smoothed mud and logs. Accidents are common. A rope snaps and men are crushed. A block slips and limbs are shattered. There are no doctors here, no healers with magical spells. There is only the unforgiving stone and the ever-present shadow of death. You look up at the sheer face of the quarry, at the vast geometric shapes that have been cut away, and you see the scale of the gods and the pharaohs. You understand that your life is a small, insignificant price to pay for their eternity. You are building monuments that will last for thousands of years, but you will not live to see them completed. You are carving an empire from a mountain of pain, your own pain, and you know that when your body finally breaks, the stone will remain indifferent, eternal, waiting for the next man to pick up his pounder and continue the work. This is your legacy, an anonymous contribution to a glory you will never share. The written word is magic. You believe this with a certainty that is as solid as the ground beneath your feet. It is a sacred, mysterious art, a way of capturing speech, thought, and even the will of the gods in a series of beautiful, complex symbols. These symbols, hieroglyphs, are carved on the walls of temples, painted inside the tombs of kings, and inscribed on the great monuments that tower over your world. They are the language of the divine, the language of power, and you cannot read them. You are one of the 99%. The vast majority of the Egyptian population is illiterate. The ability to read and write is not a basic skill taught to all. It is a rare and highly specialized craft, a secret knowledge, guarded by an elite class of men, the scribes. From a young age, you see them in your village or in the market towns. They are instantly recognizable. They do not have the calloused hands of a farmer or the sun-scorched skin of a laborer. Their bodies are soft, their linen is clean, and they carry themselves with an air of quiet authority. Their tools are not the hoe or the chisel, but the reed brush, the palette of ink, and the roll of papyrus. They are the keepers of the records, the masters of the bureaucracy, the essential gears in the great machine of the empire. Your entire life is governed by the documents they write. Your taxes are recorded on their scrolls. The deed to the land you work, land you will never own, is stored in their archives. The laws that can see you punished or pardoned are written in a script you cannot decipher. You are dependent on them for everything. When you need to make a contract to register a birth or to file a complaint, you must go to a scribe. You tell him your story, and he translates your spoken words into the silent, powerful language of hieroglyphs. You trust that he is writing what you have said, that he is recording your agreement accurately, but you can never be sure. You are at the mercy of his honesty, his skill, and his mood. This illiteracy is not an accident. It is a form of control. By keeping the written word in the hands of a select few, the state ensures that power remains centralized. Knowledge is power, and in your world that knowledge is a monopoly. You cannot read the religious texts for yourself. You must rely on the priests to interpret the will of the gods for you. You cannot read the royal decrees. You must rely on the town crier to announce them. You are a passive recipient of information, never an active participant in the conversation of power. The greatest dream a father like yours can have for his son is for him to become a scribe. It is the one almost impossible path out of a life of manual labor. If a boy shows promise, his family might scrape together everything they have to send him to a scribal school, often run by a temple. The training is long and arduous. For years, he will practice copying texts, memorizing hundreds of hieroglyphic symbols, and learning the complex rules of grammar and style. He will be beaten for his mistakes, drilled relentlessly, and taught that the scribe's palette is more honorable than any other tool. If he succeeds, he enters a world of privilege and security. If he fails, he returns to the fields, the dream of a different life turned to dust. You watch the scribes with a mixture of awe and resentment. They are the architects of your world, but you are a stranger in it, unable to read the blueprints. The written word is a door, and for you it is forever closed. Your world is the Nile Valley. It is Kemet, the Black Land, a narrow, fertile ribbon of life, surrounded by an endless sea of chaos. You believe with the certainty of religious dogma that your land is the center of the universe, the pivot upon which the cosmic order of Ma'at is balanced. Everything beyond the familiar banks of your sacred river is a place of disorder, of danger, of inferiority. The world is divided into two simple categories, Egyptians and everyone else. To the south lies Nubia, the land of Cush. You know the Nubians as the vile Cush, a people of darker skin who are both a valuable trading partner and a constant military threat. The pharaoh's armies march south to control the gold mines of Nubia, to capture slaves, and to enforce Egyptian dominance. The temple walls are covered with reliefs depicting the pharaoh smiting Nubian chieftains, their bodies contorted in defeat, their faces masks of terror. You are taught from birth that they are a people to be conquered, to be ruled, their otherness a sign of their lesser place in the divine order. To the west is the vast, unforgiving Libyan desert, the Deshret, or Red Land. It is the domain of Set, the god of chaos and storms. It is a place of death, and the people who emerge from it, the fair-skinned Libyans, are viewed with deep suspicion. They are nomads, raiders, a constant thorn in the side of the western frontier. They do not build grand temples or live in ordered cities. They are a people of the wind and the sand, and to you that makes them uncivilized, unpredictable, a force of chaos that must be kept at bay. To the east, across the Sinai Peninsula, are the Asiatics, a broad term you use for the peoples of the Levant and beyond. They are the Hyksos, who once ruled your land, the Hittites, who challenged your empire, the merchants who bring exotic goods like cedarwood and lapis lazuli. You trade with them, you fight with them, but you do not trust them. They have strange gods, strange customs, and strange languages. They are a source of both luxury and instability. The official art of the kingdom portrays them with sharp, angular features and pointed beards, their foreignness emphasized as a mark of their otherness. This worldview is not just a matter of cultural prejudice. It is a cornerstone of your identity. To be Egyptian is to be part of a divinely ordered superior civilization. Everyone else is to varying degrees a barbarian, a force of chaos that threatens the delicate balance of Ma'at. You see foreigners in the market towns, merchants from distant lands with different clothes and different faces. You stare at them with a mixture of curiosity and distrust. They are a reminder of the vast, unruly world that exists beyond the familiar comfort of the Nile. Your leaders may engage in diplomacy and trade with these foreign powers, but you are taught to be wary. Foreign ideas are dangerous. Foreign gods are false. The Egyptian way is the only true way, the path sanctioned by the gods and perfected over thousands of years. This deeply ingrained xenophobia is a source of strength and unity, but it is also a source of isolation. It creates a powerful sense of us versus them, a cultural fortress as real as any military garrison on the frontier. You live in the most magnificent civilization in the world, and you are taught to pity anyone who was not born on the sacred soil of the Black Land. Your life is defined by labor, from the moment the sun rises until it sets. Your body is a tool in service to the land, the temple, or the state. But even in this world of relentless toil, there are moments of rest, brief, precious pockets of time when you are allowed to simply be. Leisure is not a right. It is a rare and cherished gift, and you seize it with a quiet joy. Perhaps it is the end of a long day of harvesting. The grain has been gathered, the taxes have been paid, and for a short while there is nothing more to be done. You gather with your family and neighbors in the cool of the evening outside your homes. The air is filled with the sound of storytelling. An old man recounts a myth of the gods, his voice a low, mesmerizing drone, his hands painting pictures in the air. A woman sings a simple folk song, a lament for a lost love or a celebration of the river, her voice clear and strong in the twilight. There is no grand stage, no formal performance. This is entertainment born of community of shared stories and shared voices. Children play in the dusty lanes. They do not have elaborate toys. They play with what they have, a ball made of bundled rags and string small clay figures of animals, a simple wooden doll. They chase each other, their laughter, a bright fleeting sound in the quiet evening. They play games of tag and leapfrog, their energy, a stark contrast to the weary stillness of their parents. For the men, there is the quiet pleasure of a game. One of the most popular is Senet, a board game that is both a game of strategy and a symbolic journey through the afterlife. The board, a grid of 30 squares, is scratched into a flat stone or a piece of wood. The pieces are small stones or seeds. You and your opponent take turns casting knuckle bones or throwing sticks, which act as dice, moving your pieces across the board. The goal is to safely navigate all of your pieces to the final square, the house of happiness, a metaphor for reaching the field of reeds. The game is slow, contemplative, a welcome respite from the fast-paced physical demands of your day. If you live near the river, you might spend a rare day of rest fishing, not for survival, but for pleasure. You take a small reed skiff out onto the calm waters of a marsh, the air thick with the scent of lotus flowers. You cast a line or a net not with the desperate urgency of someone needing to feed their family, but with a patient, meditative calm. Or you might go hunting in the reeds, seeking out wild fowl with a throwing stick. It is a game of skill, of quiet stalking, of a deep connection to the natural world. These moments of leisure are not grand or luxurious. They are simple, small, and profoundly human. They are the spaces between the work, the brief pauses in the long, hard song of survival. They are the moments when you are not a farmer, not a laborer, but simply a person enjoying the cool of the evening, the company of your family, the quiet pleasure of a game. These are the moments that make the struggle worthwhile. They are the threads of joy that are woven into the coarse, heavy fabric of your life. You are a deeply religious person. Your life is guided by the will of the gods, and you offer them your prayers, your devotion, and a significant portion of your worldly goods. The temples that tower over your landscape are not just places of worship. They are immense economic engines, and you are one of the cogs that keeps them running. They are the largest landowners, the biggest employers, and the most powerful institutions in the kingdom, second only to the pharaoh himself. The land you farm does not belong to you. It belongs to the temple of the local god, be it Amun-Ptah, or a smaller provincial deity. You are a tenant farmer, and your rent is paid in the form of a tax, a substantial percentage of the grain you harvest each year. At the end of the harvest season, the temple scribes arrive in your village. They are methodical and unforgiving. They measure the yield of your fields, calculate the temple's share, and watch as your hard-earned grain is loaded onto barges to be shipped to the temple granaries. There is no negotiation. The god's share is fixed. What is left is what you and your family must live on until the next harvest. In a good year, it is enough. In a bad year, it means hunger. But the grain tax is not the only cost of your faith. The temples also demand offerings of livestock, beer, bread, linen, and other goods, all to sustain the vast population of priests, priestesses, and temple workers, and to be used in the elaborate daily rituals performed for the gods. You are expected to contribute to give a portion of what little you have to ensure the gods remain pleased and the cosmic order of Ma'at is maintained. You do so willingly, for the most part, because you believe that these offerings are necessary for the survival of your world. But sometimes, as you watch the fat temple cattle graze on the best land, while your own family subsists on meager rations, a flicker of resentment sparks within you. The wealth of the temples is staggering, and it is on full display. The priests are a privileged class. They wear robes of the finest, whitest linen. They eat meat and drink wine. They are educated, literate, and move through the world with an air of serene authority. They are the intermediaries between you and the divine, and their position affords them a life of comfort and security that is unimaginable to you. Their temple compounds are like small cities, with their own workshops, bakeries, and breweries, all staffed by workers and supplied by the produce of the temple's vast estates that you work. You see the immense stone walls of the temple, the towering pylons carved with images of the pharaoh, making offerings to the gods. You hear the sacred chants of the priests echoing from within the sanctuary, a place you are forbidden to enter. You are a part of this great religious enterprise. You are the one who provides the fuel that keeps it running, but you are forever on the outside looking in. Your faith is a source of comfort and meaning, but it is also a heavy economic burden. It is the price you pay for living in a divinely ordered world. You give your grain, your labor, and your devotion to the gods, and in return, you hope for their favor. It is a contract that feels both sacred and deeply unbalanced. The sun has carved your face into a landscape of deep lines. Your hands are gnarled. Your joints ache with a fire that never cools, and your back is a permanent stooped curve. You have survived. You have outlived the plagues, the famines, the fevers, and the accidents that claimed so many of your childhood friends. You have reached old age, a rare and respected station in your society. But old age is not a time of peaceful retirement. It is a new and final chapter in your lifelong struggle for survival. There is no concept of a pension, no state support for the elderly. Your security in old age depends entirely on one thing: your children. Throughout your life, you have worked to raise them, to feed them, to teach them the skills they need to survive. Now, it is their turn to care for you. A son is a family's greatest asset, not just because he will carry on the family name, but because he has a duty, both legal and moral, to support his aging parents. The ideal is captured in Egyptian wisdom texts, which urge sons to repay your mother for all her care for you, give her as much bread as she needs, and carry her as she carried you. If you are lucky, your son is a dutiful one. He provides you with a corner of his home, a share of his food, and a place by the fire. You are no longer able to work in the fields, but you are not useless. You contribute in other ways. You watch the children, you mend the fishing nets, you weave baskets. You offer the wisdom and experience of your long years. You are a storyteller, a living link to the ancestors, a keeper of the family's history. You are respected, your counsel is sought, and you are a cherished member of the household. But if you are not so lucky, old age can be a time of great anxiety and hardship. Perhaps your son is poor, struggling to feed his own young family. Your presence becomes another mouth to feed, another burden on his meager resources. Or perhaps your children have died and you are left alone with no one to care for you. In this case, you must rely on the charity of your extended family or your neighbors, a precarious existence that is dependent on the kindness of others. You become a beggar, a ghost haunting the edges of the village, your life a slow fade into invisibility. For a woman, old age can be even more precarious. If her husband dies, she is left a widow. While she has the legal right to inherit a portion of his property, she often becomes dependent on her son. If she has no son, her future is uncertain. The fear of being left alone and destitute in old age is a powerful one, and it is a driving force behind the desire for a large family. You look at your own body, at the way it has been worn down by a lifetime of labor. You are not frail, but you are tired, a deep, bone-weary exhaustion that sleep can no longer cure. You have earned your rest, but rest is a luxury you cannot afford. You will continue to contribute to work in whatever small ways you can until your final day, because in your world, to be useless is to be a burden, and to be a burden is a form of death, long before your soul stands for judgment. You have survived to see your grandchildren, a great blessing, and you pray to the gods that they will be strong enough to carry you just as you once carried them. Your world is divided in two. There is Kemet, the Black Land, the narrow, fertile strip of life that hugs the banks of the Nile. This is your home. It is a place of order, of community, of civilization. And then there is Deshret, the Red Land, the vast, terrifying expanse of desert that stretches to the east and west, a seemingly endless ocean of sand and rock that marks the edge of your known world. The desert is not just a place, it is a concept. It is the physical embodiment of chaos. The desert is the domain of Set, the god of storms, violence, and disorder. It is a place where the rules of your ordered agricultural life do not apply. There are no fields to plow, no villages to offer shelter, no predictable rhythms of the river. There is only the scorching sun, the biting wind, and a profound, unnerving silence. You are taught from a young age to fear the Red Land. It is a place of death. The hot winds can whip up a sandstorm in minutes, a swirling, choking cloud that can strip the skin from your bones and bury you alive. The landscape is a deceptive, shifting maze where a man can easily lose his way and wander until he collapses from thirst and exhaustion. And the desert is not empty. It is home to creatures that are as harsh and unforgiving as the landscape itself. Vipers lie hidden beneath the sand, their venom a swift and certain death. Scorpions scuttle across the rocks, and in the distance you can hear the cry of the hyena, a sound that seems to mock the fragile nature of human life. But the greatest dangers of the desert are not the animals. They are the human and supernatural forces that inhabit it. The Red Land is the home of nomadic tribes, desert raiders, who can sweep into the Nile Valley to plunder villages and steal livestock. They are as unpredictable and dangerous as the sandstorms they emerge from, and it is a place of spirits. The Egyptians believe the desert is haunted by malevolent ghosts and demon supernatural beings who thrive in the chaos and emptiness. To venture into the desert is to risk not just your life, but your soul. It is a place where a man can be driven mad by the heat, the silence, and the tricks of the light. You see mirages, shimmering pools of water that vanish as you approach a cruel joke played by the desert itself. Yet for all its terror, the desert is also a source of great wealth. The quarries that provide the stone for your temples and pyramids are located in the Red Land. The mines that yield gold, copper, and precious gems are hidden in its barren hills. Great expeditions organized by the pharaoh are sent into the desert to extract these resources. But it is a dangerous and often deadly undertaking. The men who work in these mines and quarries are often convicts or prisoners of war, their lives considered expendable. For you, a farmer, the desert is a boundary. It is the edge of your world, the line between order and chaos, life and death. You look out from the green fields of your village at the red, shimmering horizon of the desert, and you feel a sense of both fear and reverence. It is a powerful, terrifying, and sacred place, a constant reminder of the fragility of your own small, precious world, a world built on the edge of a vast and hungry emptiness. Childhood in your world is not a sheltered garden of play and discovery. It is a brief, perilous apprenticeship for a life of labor and hardship. The very act of being born is a triumph against overwhelming odds. The gods of childbirth are prayed to with a desperate fervor because so many infants do not survive their first year. Disease, malnutrition, and the harsh realities of your environment claim the weakest before they have a chance to take their first steps. If you have survived to the age of 5, you are already a veteran of existence. Your life as a child is not filled with formal schooling or elaborate toys. Your education is practical, absorbed through observation and imitation. You learn by watching your father mend his tools, by listening to your mother chant the names of the gods, by following your older siblings into the fields. There is no separation between the world of adults and the world of children. You are a small participant in the great ongoing task of survival. Your toys are simple, fashioned from the materials at hand. A doll made from bundled linen and clay beads. A small wooden boat to float in an irrigation ditch. A ball made of tightly wound reeds. You play games of tag and leapfrog in the dusty village lanes, your laughter a bright, fleeting sound. But play is always secondary to work. By the time you are 5 or 6, you are given chores. You are sent to fetch water from the river, a small pot balanced on your head. You are taught to shoo the birds away from the newly planted grain. You help your mother weed the small vegetable garden. Your small hands are put to use learning the rhythms of labor that will define the rest of your life. There is love in your family, a fierce protective bond forged in the crucible of shared struggle. Your mother soothes you when you fall. Your father might carve you a small wooden animal as a gift. But there is little room for indulgence. You learn early on that resources are scarce, that food must be shared, and that obedience is a virtue. A disobedient child is not just a nuisance. They are a danger to the family's survival, a mouth to feed that does not contribute its share. You are surrounded by the realities of life and death. You see animals being born and being slaughtered. You attend the funerals of your neighbors, the loud public rituals of mourning a familiar part of your childhood landscape. You have likely already lost a sibling to a fever or a sickness. You understand in a way that children of the future will not, that life is fragile, that it can be extinguished as easily as a flickering oil lamp. You look up to the older children, the ones who are already working alongside their parents, in the fields, their small bodies already beginning to take on the stooped posture of a lifetime of labor. You know that will be your future. Your childhood is a short, precious season, a brief moment of relative freedom before the full weight of responsibility settles on your shoulders. You play, you laugh, you dream, but you do so with the knowledge that your primary purpose is to grow strong enough to take your place in the endless cycle of work that sustains your family, your village, and the entire kingdom. You are not a child of innocence. You are a survivor in training. The cat curls at your feet, a sleek shadow in the dying light of the fire, its eyes glowing like embers. You offer it a scrap of fish left over from your meager meal, a gesture of both affection and deep ingrained reverence. This is not just a pet. In your world, this creature is a living vessel for the divine, the embodiment of the goddess Bastet protector, of the home bringer of good fortune, and a fierce enemy to the rats and snakes that threaten your survival. To harm a cat, even accidentally, is a grave sin, a crime that could see a man put to death by an angry mob. You watch as it gracefully accepts your offering, its quiet purr, a sound of contentment that feels like a blessing upon your house. This is the strange duality of your relationship with the animal world. It is a world you live in, not apart from. Your home is shared with a goat, its musky scent a permanent part of the air you breathe. Outside, donkeys bray, oxen groan under the weight of the plow, and chickens scratch in the dust. These are your partners in labor, your tools, your sources of sustenance. They are treated with a practical respect born of dependence, but they are not sacred. They are property. Yet just a short walk away at the local temple, you will see these same animals depicted in stone as gods. Khnum, the creator, god, has the head of a ram. Hathor, the goddess of love and joy, is often shown as a cow. Thoth, the scribe of the gods, has the head of an ibis. This contradiction is a fundamental part of your belief system. The animal world is both sacred and profane, a source of divine power and a source of your next meal. You see this every day at the banks of the Nile. The crocodile, the mighty creature that can drag a man to his death in a heartbeat, is also the sacred animal of the god Sobek. Temples are dedicated to him, and priests feed mummified crocodiles as offerings. Yet, you carry a spear when you go to the river, and you teach your children to fear the log-like shapes that lurk in the shallows. The hippopotamus, a creature of terrifying strength and aggression, is also a manifestation of Taweret, the goddess who protects women in childbirth. How can one creature be both a symbol of life-giving protection and a deadly threat? This is a question you do not ask. It is simply the way of the gods, a mystery that is not for mortals to understand. Your life is a constant navigation of these complex relationships. You might offer a prayer to a falcon soaring overhead, seeing it as a messenger of the god Horus, while simultaneously setting a trap to catch a quail for your dinner. You swat at the flies that swarm your face, yet the scarab beetle, a humble dung beetle, is one of the most powerful symbols of rebirth and the sun god Ra. The world is alive with gods in animal form, and you must learn to distinguish the sacred from the mundane, the symbol from the substance. You know which animals to worship, which to work, which to eat, and which to fear. This knowledge is not written in books. It is woven into the stories your grandmother tells you, into the paintings on the temple walls, and into the hard-won experience of your daily life. The cat at your feet finishes its fish and begins to wash its face with a delicate paw, and you watch it with a sense of awe. In its quiet, self-contained grace, you see a flicker of the divine, a small piece of the cosmic order living peacefully in the corner of your dusty, chaotic home. As you live your life here on the banks of the ancient Nile, you are surrounded by the colossal achievements of your ancestors. The Great Pyramids at Giza loom on the horizon, perfect geometric mountains of stone that seem to touch the sky. In future centuries, a persistent story will be told about these monuments, a story of 100,000 slaves driven by the lash toiling in misery to build tombs for tyrannical kings. It is a powerful and dramatic image, one of whips and chains and human suffering on an unimaginable scale. But as you look at the world around you, you would see a different, more complex truth. The men who built the pyramids were not foreign slaves. They were your people. They were farmers, bakers, brewers, and craftsmen. They were Egyptians. Archaeological excavations of the workers' village near the Giza Plateau have revealed a reality that is far from the Hollywood epic. The builders lived in organized communities, in modest but well-structured homes. They were fed, and fed well. The bones of cattle, a luxury meat, not often eaten by commoners, have been found in abundance in their rubbish pits, a sign that they were given high-protein food to sustain their demanding labor. They had access to medical care. Skeletons have been found with bones that were expertly set with limbs that were amputated and had healed, indicating a level of care that would never be afforded to a disposable slave. Most importantly, when these workers died, they were buried with honor in tombs near the pyramids they had helped to build. Their graves contained bread and beer for the afterlife, a sign of respect, a recognition of their contribution to the eternal glory of their king. This is not how a society treats its slaves. So who were they? They were laborers participating in a system of corvée labor, a form of national service that was in essence a tax paid with time and effort instead of grain. During the season of Akhet, when the Nile flooded the fields and agricultural work was impossible, thousands of men from across Egypt would be called upon to work on the pharaoh's great construction projects. It was hard, dangerous work, yes, but it was a duty, a sacred obligation to their god-king and to the cosmic order of Maat. The myth of the slave-built pyramids persists, perhaps because it is a simpler, more dramatic story. It is easier to imagine a tyrant driving his people with a whip than it is to understand a complex system of social and religious obligation. But the truth you would have seen is quieter and more profound. The pyramids were not built by the suffering of chained slaves. They were built by the sweat, the skill, and the collective belief of a nation by men who worked, ate, and were buried in the shadow of the eternal monuments they had raised with their own hands. Looking at the world around you, the elaborate tombs, the mummified bodies, the endless rituals dedicated to the dead, it would be easy for a future observer to conclude that your people are obsessed with death, that you live in a gloomy, morbid culture, your every action dictated by a fear of the grave. But as you live and breathe this life, you know that this is the greatest misunderstanding of all. You are not obsessed with death. You are obsessed with life. Your entire belief system, your art, your rituals are all dedicated to one single powerful idea that life is so beautiful, so precious, that it must be made to continue forever. Death is not a revered endpoint. It is an enemy to be defeated, a temporary interruption in an eternal journey. The elaborate process of mummification is not an act of worshiping the dead. It is an act of defiance against decay. You preserve the body, the cot with natron and linen, not because you are in love with the corpse, but because you believe the soul, the bay, and the ka needs a physical anchor to return to. It is a practical necessity for an eternal life. The tombs are not dark, morbid crypts. They are houses of eternity, designed to be vibrant, comfortable, and fully equipped homes for the soul. The walls are painted with lively scenes, not of death, but of life. You see images of the deceased hunting in the marshes, overseeing their farms, feasting with their families. These are not just memories. They are magical blueprints designed to ensure that these joyful activities will continue forever in the afterlife. The tomb is filled with the things one would need to live well: food, wine, clothing, furniture, games. It is a celebration of life projected into eternity, and the afterlife you envision is not a gloomy, shadowy underworld. It is the field of reeds Aru, a perfect, idealized version of the Egypt you know. It is a paradise where the sun always shines, the crops grow without effort, the rivers are always full, and you are reunited with your loved ones who have passed before you. There is no sickness, no hunger, no pain. There is only the best of life forever, the perilous journey through the underworld, the judgment before Osiris. These are not morbid fantasies. They are the trials you must pass to earn this beautiful eternity. The Book of the Dead is not a guide to dying. It is a guide to living forever. So when you see a funeral procession, the loud wailing of the mourners is not a celebration of death. It is a lament for the temporary loss of a loved one, a performance of grief that is part of the ritual of sending them on their way. Your people do not love death. They love life so fiercely that they have built a civilization around the refusal to let it end. Though her reign is more than 1,000 years in your future, the name of one queen will echo back through time, becoming the most famous of all who ruled your land, Cleopatra. In the imagination of the future, she will be seen as the ultimate Egyptian queen, a woman of breathtaking exotic beauty, a seductress who brought powerful Roman generals to their knees with a single glance. But the truth of this final queen is, like everything in your world, more complex than the myth. The Cleopatra, who will one day rule from Alexandria, is not of your blood. She is not a descendant of the great pharaohs of the New Kingdom. She is a Ptolemy, a member of a Greek dynasty that began ruling Egypt after the conquest of Alexander the Great. She is a daughter of Macedonia, not of the Nile. She would have spoken Greek as her first language, and though she was one of the few in her dynasty to bother learning the Egyptian language, her culture, her education, and her worldview were Hellenistic, not purely Egyptian. And what of her legendary beauty? The Roman historian Plutarch, who wrote about her a century after her death, tells a different story. He wrote that her beauty was not in and for itself so altogether incomparable, nor such as to strike those who saw her. Instead, her true power lay elsewhere. It was in her charisma, her irresistible charm, her wit, and above all, her voice. Plutarch described her voice as being like an instrument of many strings, capable of switching effortlessly between languages and tones. She was a brilliant conversationalist, a master of rhetoric, a woman whose intelligence was her most potent weapon. The coins minted during her reign show a woman with a strong hooked nose and sharp features, not the soft, idealized beauty of a Hollywood actress. She was not famous because she was beautiful. She was famous because she was brilliant. She was a shrewd political operator who navigated the treacherous world of Roman politics with a skill that rivaled any man's. She formed alliances with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, not just as a lover, but as a political partner, a queen fighting to preserve her kingdom's autonomy against the rising tide of the Roman Empire. The myth of Cleopatra, as a simple seductress, is a story told by her Roman enemies, a way to diminish her political genius and cast her as a decadent, immoral, foreign queen. It was easier for them to believe that their great generals were brought down by a woman's beauty than to admit they were outmaneuvered by her mind. So while the future will dream of a beautiful Egyptian queen, the reality was a fiercely intelligent Greek stateswoman, a ruler whose greatest asset was not her face, but her formidable intellect. As you live your day from the morning offering at your shrine to the evening prayer, as darkness falls, you are guided by an invisible architecture that structures your entire existence. It is not an army or a police force that keeps you in your place. It is an idea, a powerful, all-encompassing belief in Ma'at, the ancient Egyptian concept of truth, justice, balance, and cosmic order. Ma'at is not just a moral principle. It is the fundamental law of the universe, the force that keeps the stars in their courses, the Nile in its banks, and society in its proper hierarchy. The world was created from chaos, and it is in constant danger of slipping back into it. The only thing holding back this chaos is the maintenance of Ma'at, and at the center of this delicate balancing act is the pharaoh. He is not just a king. He is the living embodiment of Horus, the divine intermediary, whose rituals and righteous rule ensure that the gods are pleased and the universe remains stable. This belief system is the most effective form of social control imaginable. It is a control that is not imposed from the outside, but embraced from within. You obey the laws, you pay your taxes. You perform your duties, not just because you fear the magistrate's whip, but because you fear cosmic collapse. To be rebellious, to be dishonest, to be disorderly, these are not just crimes against the state. They are crimes against the universe. Your personal actions have cosmic consequences. If you and your fellow villagers fail in your duties, the gods might become angry, the Nile might not flood, the crops might fail, and the entire land could be plunged into famine and chaos. This worldview explains the profound conservatism of your society, the sense that things have been the same for thousands of years and should remain so. Innovation is risky. Change is dangerous. The established order is the only thing that works. It explains your acceptance of your place at the bottom of the social pyramid. The hierarchy is not a man-made injustice. It is a reflection of the divine order. The pharaoh rules because he is a god. The priests serve because they are the keepers of the sacred rites. And you farm because that is your essential role in the great cosmic machine. This belief brings a certain kind of peace, a sense of meaning and purpose in a life of hardship. Your toil is not meaningless, it is a sacred duty. But it is also a powerful tool of subjugation. It teaches you to accept your suffering as a necessary part of a grand, unchangeable plan. It discourages questioning. It stifles dissent, and it ensures that the structure of power remains forever unchallenged. You live in a world forged not by iron, but by an idea of order so powerful that it makes you a willing participant in your own submission. The sun sets on your day in ancient Egypt, painting the western desert in strokes of bruised purple and dying orange. The heat, your constant companion and tormentor, finally begins to release its grip, and a deceptive coolness settles over the land. You have survived. You have endured the grit in your bread, the ache in your back, the flies in your eyes, and the ever-present fear of gods and men who hold your fate in their hands. You have walked barefoot on sun-baked earth. You have drunk the murky water of the Nile, and you have toiled for a share of grain that is barely enough to sustain you. And now, as you lie on your reed mat, in the shared darkness of your home, you know with a deep and weary certainty that tomorrow will be the same. The horizon of your life is as flat and unchanging as the desert itself. There is no path to a different future, no dream of becoming something other than what you are. You are a farmer, and your son will be a farmer. You will work this same plot of land, you will pay your taxes to the same temple, and you will pray to the same gods for mercy. This is the essence of Ma'at, a cosmic order that is both your comfort and your cage. It provides stability, but it denies you possibility. Your name will not be carved into the stone of a great temple. No grand tomb will be built to house your soul for eternity. Your life, with all its small, unrecorded moments of joy and its vast, silent oceans of struggle, will be forgotten. You are a single, anonymous ripple in the great eternal river of Egyptian civilization, a ripple that appears for a moment and then is gone, leaving no trace. This is the cold, hard truth of your existence. You are the foundation upon which the golden pyramids are built, the muscle that feeds the armies of the pharaoh, the silent, beating heart of the empire. But history will not remember your name. It will remember the names of the kings, the priests, and the gods. Your legacy is not written in hieroglyphs. It is written in the blood and sweat that you have given to the black earth, a legacy that is washed away and renewed with every flood, a story told not to the future, but to the land itself. And as you close your eyes, you do not pray for glory or for fame. You pray for a good flood, a healthy harvest, and the strength to face another day that will be exactly like the one that has just passed. And yet within that relentless, unforgiving cycle, was there room for beauty? Could you, a person of this ancient time, have found moments of grace in a life so defined by hardship? Could you have felt a genuine thrill at the sight of a sacred procession, the sound of a harp in the evening, the taste of a fresh, sweet date? Or would the sheer grinding weight of survival have eroded any capacity for joy, leaving only the dull, stoic acceptance of your fate? It is a question that drifts like incense smoke across the millennia, a question we can ask, but never truly answer. We look back from a world they could not have even imagined, a world of clean water, of medicine that can cure fevers in hours, of machines that do the work of 1,000 men. Our comfort is built on a foundation of their struggle. We read their stories, we study their monuments, and we marvel at their achievements. But to see them only as sufferers, as anonymous victims of a brutal age, is to miss their profound strength. They were not just enduring, they were creating. They were building, loving, worshiping, and believing. They found meaning in their duty. They found community in their shared struggle, and they found a sense of the eternal in the cycles of their sacred river. Their resilience is a quiet lesson. They did not have the freedom to choose their lives, but they had the strength to live them with a dignity and purpose that is in its own way awe-inspiring. They faced a world of constant uncertainty with a deep and abiding faith in the order of the universe. They looked at a harsh and unforgiving landscape and saw not a prison, but a sacred home, a place where gods and mortals lived in a difficult but meaningful dance. To honor them is not to pity their suffering, but to respect their strength, to acknowledge the weight they carried, so that the great slow march of civilization could continue. But you are no longer there. The dust of the Nile is not in your throat. The heat of the Egyptian sun cannot reach you here. The coarse linen of a simple tunic is not upon your skin. You are in your own time, in your own space, a world away from the banks of that ancient river. There is no hard-packed earth floor beneath you, only the softness of your mattress yielding to the weight of your body. Your head does not rest on a block of unforgiving wood, but on a soft pillow that cradles you in comfort. The air you breathe is clean, cool, and quiet. There is no smell of mud and smoke, no sound of a crying baby in the next room, no fear of a scorpion hiding in the shadows. The small, crowded single room of that Egyptian home has dissolved, replaced by the peace and privacy of your own familiar space. You are not on the banks of the Nile. You are in your bed, safe, quiet. The only sounds you hear are the gentle hum of a fan and the steady, rhythmic beat of your own heart. The world of gods and pharaohs of pyramids and papyrus has faded back into the mists of time. You have walked a day in their sandals, and now you have returned. Let the weight of their world drift away. Let the struggles of their ancient lives dissolve into the silence of your room. Let the comfort of your own bed be a quiet reminder of the long journey humanity has taken. There is nothing you need to do now. There is nowhere you need to be. There is only rest. Sleep well.